And start. And we're live. Welcome everyone. This is the Casual Fan, and we have Jason Hassett with us. And today, this is in this video we are doing an instant reaction of what happened in the Singapore Grand Prix. Well, the race ended just 10-15 minutes ago. How long was it? 30 minutes probably. Yeah. It was a fun one. We'll get to the reactions as well. So, yeah, they ruined it for everyone. Man, honestly, I had a lot of fun. The kind of action and everything. It was fun to watch, to be honest. By the way, getting to first of all, just initial reactions from you. One word that you will just use to describe the Singapore Grand Prix.
Masterclass, and by masterclass I mean by science.
Oh yeah.
Just absolute masterclass. Because I don't know if you want to get into it now, but we can.
Sure. You can touch on it.
Basically, just at first when science started asking about Lando's pace,
Yeah.
I was like, "What's he doing there?" Because surely they've told him the Mercedes are close.
Yeah.
But then when he said 0.8 and he said, "Don't worry, it's on purpose," I was like, "Oh, he might actually be thinking this through." And it was an
Yeah.
Alonso level. He's watching everything. He's on top of it. He's keeping Lando there, and it worked. So master.
Perfectly. I mean, he even mentioned it on the team radio, right? He said that, okay, I'm doing it. This is intentional in his typical Spanish accent.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a fun race.
definitely.
Yeah. So in my case, the word that I will use is, well, smooth operator. That was the first thing I wrote. My initial reaction was, I mean, everything. What has happened to him? He probably did something during the whole summer break. Since he's been back, it's been very impressive. I mean, just look at how he's been performing. Wow.
He's still ahead of Leclerc. I mean, Leclerc has been catching up. I don't want to say Sainz is better than Leclerc. He has been this season. Let's put that honestly. He has been just better across this season.
I you know
High peaks.
I'll actually disagree with that, at least for now, cause the thing is, what happens is I do this driver ratings after every race, so it's neck and neck. But it's for now. I think it will change after this race because Sainz aced it. It's pretty much neck and neck now, which is still disappointing for Charles.
I just think there's something going on this season from what I've seen. I think that Leclerc is very much unhappy with what's gone on, obviously, with the car drop, and it's the way he talks after the races. He seems kind of not annoyed, and that's what makes it kind of more obvious.
Strange.
It's like Leclerc would normally be like, "Oh, this is ridiculous," and getting annoyed, and he's kind of just like, "Yeah, this is Ferrari," And it seems like Sainz, on the other hand, is kind of coming into it now. He's happy and he's buzzing.
Yeah.
So I'm worried that Leclerc may get to the point where he checks out enough just to say, "Yeah, I'm not renewing the contract." But that's
Exactly.
a couple of years away still.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So yeah, I mean, even in my case, I think I had a similar reaction from pretty much from the first session. Sainz was on it, and you could see Charles struggling with the car. I mean, I mentioned it again and again on Twitter that you could see that Charles was struggling to get a grip of how to completely maneuver his way through the lap. He was always struggling in the third sector, and that's pretty much obvious that tires are gone. After that, he can't really make a difference.
Yeah.
Something's not happening overall.
Not
But yes,
clicking,
yeah, something's not clicking. That's the right word.
Definitely. It's the thing is as well. I think it is that level-headedness too, because Sainz just. The one thing is, Sainz has been underestimated for a long time, but the one thing that Sainz has always been very good at is, like Alonso, you do know that Sainz will always think ahead. So, like when Ferrari call a strategy and Sainz doesn't like it, he'll take
Yeah.
it. Whereas Leclerc puts a lot of faith into Ferrari.
Which is
Maybe.
the stupidest thing to do in the world.
I was going to say, which is maybe why Leclerc's so upset.
Yeah, and actually Sai asked a question regarding this only. Did Ferrari really sacrifice Leclerc? Sai, I'll get to it later. This is something that I actually have in mind. One of the talking points. Did Ferrari really sacrifice Leclerc? I'll get to it. And anyhow, first of all, let's just go through the whole standings. So let me see if I can share my screen here. Pardon, guys, if whoever is watching, there's going to be a few technical difficulties in the way the whole thing goes on.
We'll just keep the banter going through.
We're just amateurs. I mean, the name is Casual F1 Fan, so it works with the brand. So where's the, yeah, okay, I think I can project this thing. Let's see.
So you're sharing the obviously race results, is it?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I have them in
Well,
front of me here as well anyway, so that's okay.
yeah, I mean, just for the for the stream as well,
Yeah, yeah.
so they can
Hello,
take a
viewers,
look.
by the way. If you haven't subscribed, what are you doing here?
Yeah. I mean, I love them. Whoever's watching, thanks for doing that. So I think, is it visible now?
Yeah, I can see it on screen, so I'd imagine so.
Yeah, I guess so. It should be visible.
Mhm.
So okay, so Sainz, first of all, Sainz won the race. Norris P2, Hamilton P3. I mean, Charles George really fucked it up in the end. That was a bit of a surprise.
I'm most surprised, if I'm honest, by Max Verstappen being in P5. Like, if you
I did not expect that.
It wasn't. I just kind of checked out of the Max Verstappen thing. I was like, and they showed Max racing. I think it was Ocon at one point, and it was at the time when the top four were battling or getting close to a battle. I was like, why is Max Verstappen on screen? He's like 15th or something. I don't care. And
Yeah.
and then I realized at the end he's 5th. I was
Yeah.
like, what happened? But,
And his lap times were right. I mean, they were on par with what Mercedes was doing in the end, which was a bit of a surprise for me. So
yeah.
yeah. So
I guess we'll
Gasly,
talk about Red Bull and their.
yeah, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Apparently, you got a lot of flack for it on your video when you did the whole video for the.
Listen, if I talk anything about Red Bull and I basically don't, like, if I don't insult Red Bull or call them cheaters, because I don't do that. I'm not that type of Formula One.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm like, look, this is the logical reason for why Red Bull is struggling, and no, they're not cheating. It's this.
Yeah.
People shout at me, and then if I go, wow, Hamilton is having a great race, and you know what? I think Hamilton deserves to stay around for a while. It's Hamilton
Yeah.
fanboy. You obviously hate Red Bull, and it's like you just can't win. So.
Yeah, really. I mean, the fan base has gotten too polarized right now.
It's only the good thing is it's only like a small percentage of the fan base. It's just that those people are the loudest.
Are the loudest.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Exactly. So yeah. Anyhow, in P6 we had Gasly. P7 we had Oscar Piastri. I did not expect that. Impressive drive from him.
Yeah.
Perez in P8. I mean, fine. It's still a recovery drive. He was not too far behind Max,
Fine,
I guess.
it's his last 8 races with Red Bull. It's fine.
No, I don't think so. I thought about it, but I've
I'm a
changed my
Checo-
mind.
I'm a huge Checo fan, as you know, and
Yeah.
I think he's gone at the end of the season.
We'll get to that. We'll get to this one as well. Man, P9. Oh fuck. I mean, Liam Lawson P9. I think that's the best result for AlphaTauri this season. Right?
He's potentially. I think so. I'm not sure. Maybe Sonoda
Ye-
got a P9. Did he at some point? I'm not sure.
He has 2 points, and I think he has 2-point finishes. So
But I think that unfortunately as well could put the nail in Yuki Tsunoda's time there.
yeah, that's
Again,
so.
we can talk about that, I guess, when we talk about Perez, because it all kind of comes together.
Yeah.
But yeah, incredible drive by Lawson. Really incredible.
Yeah, and Sai remarks, so amateur F1 fan then. Yeah. yeah, asshole, yes. So, by the way, Magnussen P10. I think that was a result of him pitting later and going on the soft tires. That helped him out a lot. Albon, I think. Okay, are they? There might be an investigation between Checo and Albon, right? They had a
I think
contact.
So yes, let me actually see, because I can check with the FIA documents and see if there's been any update while we go through this.
Yeah.
Because I've got the page where all the documents come up. So it hasn't actually been investigated yet. The driver and team representative will be required to report at 22:40, which I think is kind of around now. More time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's an incident between cars 11 and 23. Yeah, so
That's Checo and Albon.
Albon. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see the incident on TV. They didn't show it, but something happened probably.
It could be crucial, but even if he gets a 3-place grid drop or
No. We don't do that. It will be a 5-second thing, right?
5-second penalty. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
So he
wrong.
should be safe in that case.
Yeah, because he's like 30 seconds. He's 10 seconds ahead of the next of Liam Lawson. So
Yeah, so that should be fine.
yeah, unless he gets a 20-second penalty or something, which I
No,
don't see him
that's
doing.
we only do it we only do it in 2008 Spa
Yeah.
when Lewis Hamilton is winning.
Yeah, maybe they'll do that for the laugh, just to give Alexander Albon a point. You know?
Would be nice. I mean, he launched his new footwear line, right? Some shoes or something he launched.
Yeah, well,
Yep.
maybe he was running with them instead of driving, and that's why.
maybe that's what happened. Anyhow, Joe Guan Yu in P12, Hulkenberg P15. I think he just dropped like a stone afterwards. The tires completely went off. I think what we can see here is clearly the drivers that were able to pit during that VSC from Ocon.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so that made a difference. Sargent in P14. I'm slightly worried about him. Alonso had a weekend from hell.
Alonso, genuinely, at points through the race, I was watching it, and I was for a moment thinking, did Alonso go back to Alpine for the weekend? Because he was having an Alpine weekend. You know,
Yeah.
Alpine, just everything has to go wrong for Alpine.
True. Happened with Ocon, right?
Yeah, so his DNF, and he was running quite high Ocon as well.
Yeah, his overtake on Alonso and Checo were
Yeah.
quite
Amazing,
impressive.
Amazing. But I've since the start of the season, I've had a prediction where I'm like, okay, Alpine have said they want to be the French Ferrari. So I'm
They
like,
are.
Okay, so basically now what I'm doing is every single predictions weekend, we predict which Alpine is going to DNF.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for this weekend, I said Gasly. I was so close.
Oh.
But,
Yeah. Ocon was livid after that. I mean, he had a good race, but
yeah.
Alpine had pace. Alpine wasn't slow. He
This is the thing.
he
The
was.
car isn't. The car is up there with. I think it's a bit further back now, but it was at the same pace as kind of the Ferrari. I feel like Ferrari have made a step and they need to take another step. But
Yeah.
it's just the mistakes, constant just errors and reliability.
Operational issues. I
And
really can't.
firing all of their managers, which
Yeah.
let's fire all the managers mid-season without replacements. Yeah, that sounds like a great fucking idea.
Would be fun, no? There's no one right now. There's no one.
French Ferrari.
Yeah.
The only thing worse than an Italian Ferrari is a French Ferrari, and they've managed to create that. So.
Seriously, man. I mean, the team pissed me off completely. I still can't understand what sense did it make to actually fire Binotto and not Binotto, Otmar and Alan Permain.
To be honest, like firing Otmar Zafnauer, if they had done it in December and they had a solid replacement, I'd be like, okay, fair. Otmar has
Works
always
perfect.
Otmar has always been a midfield team leader. I think Otmar has potential to lead a big team, but he's never done it. So I would understand if they were like, look, we've gotten, even if it was Mattia Binotto, and we were like, look, we've got Binotto, like him or not, he ran Ferrari before, maybe he can help, whatever. But to
At least he can help with the engine. Which
yeah, but to fire
poor.
the season without replacements just was really strange.
I mean, I would ideally say that is such a Ferrari thing to do, but
Exactly, and they said at
Yeah.
the start of the season we want to be the French Ferrari, and I think
they are being the French Ferrari right now.
Too literally, yeah. They need to bring back Flavio, and I'll say it. For the
I'll be honest, I hate that guy. I don't.
Flavio.
I mean, look, the kind of unethical and shady shit that he pulled, and his
Oh, yeah, like, he's a terrible
Come
human
on.
being.
yeah.
But I mean, sport is for entertainment, right? So
Yes, I guess we can call it that.
yeah. So
I mean, yeah. So okay, after Alonso, now just to end the whole thing, after Alonso, we had George Russell. I mean, the man had a killer race from start to finish, and he wanted to fight for the win, and he actually ended up in the barriers.
just to finish first. First, you have to finish.
Yeah, I think I want to see that replay again. I think he got spooked by Lando touching that same wall. I have a feeling something like that
The
happened.
thing is, if Lando, I'll need to watch the onboard, like you said,
Yeah.
but perhaps it could be something as simple as they had been pushing the tires a lot, so the tires and as well they were behind. So while these cars can follow closer than before for a lot
Yeah.
longer, it still does affect them with dirty air, temperatures, all that stuff.
The
Perhaps his
brake
tires-
temperatures, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe it's a case of if Lando hit the wall and swung back across, turbulence,
Yeah.
brakes at wrong temperature, and at the end of the day, like people will give these drivers shit, but they're driving 60 laps in that heat.
Yeah.
It's.
I think
simple mistake.
he. I think, look, in my view, I think he was the standout Mercedes driver this weekend. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it.
And he needed that because he's been behind Hamilton all season, which has been.
Yeah.
It's been
Look, during the mid-season break, I actually thought that maybe Mercedes made the wrong choice by banking on Russell, but he's changed my mind.
See,
He's actually changed my mind.
Yeah, see, I don't think so because in Australia, I remember before his car broke down. I remember literally while I was watching the Australian race, I was like, "This is why they've gambled on him. He is a future
Yeah.
world champion. Like
Yeah.
he has the potential there, but he's just not gelling with the car. Sorry, I suppose in the same way that Hamilton was having such issues last year at points. Maybe
Hmm.
this car just doesn't gel with him. It happens.
I think it's gotten better now. This season has been. I mean, sorry, not this season. The last three races, they've been
Yeah.
so much better.
Yeah, I just hope
Yeah.
it's not like an adaptability problem because that can be an issue where, some of the best drivers. in the
That
world-
doesn't go away. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what science has been so impressive over the years is he'll just adapt to anything over time.
True. True.
And that was the problem with Ricardo. Ricardo is a driver who could be a world champion in the right situation, but clearly can't adapt. The problem is not alongside Max, but that's a different conversation. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is potential there, but if you can't adapt,
The Daniel Ricciardo of 2014, 15, 16, maybe even 17. I think he was neck and neck with Lewis easily, without a
Yeah.
doubt.
he had potential. I think. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's
And he never got the
longer
right car.
conversation.
Yeah. Anyhow, Ricciardo is not
Finish
even
off the
here.
standings.
Yeah, okay, so Bottas so Bottas was out. I don't even remember what happened with him. But that's basically Alfa Romeo for you. I mean,
I
the
don't know, but
team.
I predicted him to DNF, so.
Yeah. Ocon, I think that was a sad one. I mean, I felt bad for him because that was a good race from him. Then again, I think Yuki and Oscar collided on the very first lap, and he was done. And
Was
he
it Yuki no, it was Yuki and Perez, I think.
was it Perez or was it Oscar? I think it was one of the two. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I'll check now. But I think, because I remember him shouting, "Oh, Perez collided into me" or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe he was wrong though.
Something, yeah. I have a feeling it was Oscar. They were all pretty much in the same bunch.
Yeah, I'll check in a second. But
Yeah.
But yeah.
Question to you, what
Tsunoda
should
ran
all...
into contact with a Red Bull, and that gave him the puncher. So it was Perez.
Yeah. Okay, by the way, one question from the chat. Okay, there are quite a few. There's one. Sai Krishna is saying Lawrence should disown Lance. Okay, by the way, he's also clarifying that Perez hit Yuki, so that's what happened.
Okay. Lawrence
And-
should just adopt losses.
You know what? You know what? There was one guy. Someone had this thread on Twitter that what should Lawrence do? I came up with the suggestion that he should, let Lance be, make him the owner of Aston Martin, let him be in charge of that. Have another son at 3 years of age. Send him to Jos Verstappen. 12 years later, get him back. I mean, this has to be a long project, but I think this project has failed. The project
It's
of
not a bad
making
idea, though,
Lance.
for Jos Verstappen to just start his own orphanage where he takes children in and just trains up Formula One drivers.
I mean, the story of Max and the kind of strict parenthood he actually had to go through.
There was a
Yours
story
was
the
a
other day that what was it? Yoss, he did something wrong in karting or whatever, and Yoss told him to walk home, and it was
yeah,
like 3-4 miles, and he was only like 11, and he
yeah.
found out that he had hitchhiked half the way, so he drove him back, put him back, and told him to walk it again. I'm like, Jesus.
Man.
But we hear these stories. Like if you look at any sort of major athlete, like
Yeah.
you always hear these crazy stories. It's
Oh
always,
yes. Yuvraj. I don't think you follow cricket as much, but Yuvraj Singh. So
I
the
don't
Indian
follow cricket
cricketer.
because I don't have 3 days to watch one match. But anyway.
See, see, you know how I know that you don't follow cricket. There are actually 5 days, not three.
Oh,
So
it's fine though. I hear my
exactly.
country is good at cricket, so it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay.
They used to be anyway. I know they used to be.
Yeah. Well, you guys beat England in 2011 in the World
Yeah,
Cup, and that was in
sounds right.
India.
Because I
Yeah.
remember I was living in London and there was a taxi driver. It was an Indian guy, taxi driver in
Yeah.
London. And he said to me, he's like, "Did you watch the cricket?" And I went, "No." And he goes, "Oh, you Irish are beating us." And I went, "What are you talking about?" He goes, I just went, "We play cricket?" I had no
Yeah,
idea. So,
that's true.
yeah.
So Sai Krishna says that sort of parenting is normal to Indians. I mean, look, he actually has a point. To an extent, he does have a point. By the way,
I had,
one thing actually, yeah, I
I
actually
was
have
just gonna
one
say,
thing to ask.
I had a lot of friends in Ireland growing up that like were,
Yeah.
from Indian immigrant parents and that kind of
Mhm.
thing. Like the joke they always used to do was that kind of typical joke of was like my friend Sammy, I think it was. Yeah, Sammy was like he started his own business, sold it for like $2 million, and his joke
Hmm.
was I called my dad to tell him, and he was like, "Great, when are you starting doctoring school?" Or something
Yeah.
along those lines.
I actually have similar story, but that's more on the line of, yeah. Even when I did my engineering and also there is this entrance exam that we have to give.
Yeah.
So I was able to get into like top 10 Indian engineering schools or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And my dad was not happy. The reason being he had actually been to the same college and he's like, yeah, that's fine. Why did you not why were you not able to get into IITs? I'm like, okay, dad.
I hear this is like
That's
a
all
big
right.
thing, yeah, with like Indian parents. It's like
Oh yeah, it is. It's crazy.
and saying that
So yeah.
something works though because every like person in Ireland that I grew up with who had Indian parents went on to be incredibly successful. So I'm like, clearly they were doing something right.
They've nailed it.
Yeah.
Oh
Okay,
god.
but I think
Yeah.
we've gone through the things. We can forget about Stroll. The good thing is he doesn't even
Yeah.
exist on the standings for this race, so that's brilliant. We can just pretend Stroll doesn't exist now.
I mean, I think everyone does, anyways. By the way, yeah. I think even Aston Martin has given up. They know there's only one driver that is going to help score points.
I feel bad for
Yeah.
Mike Crack having to come up with reasons as to why Stroll. Like
I feel sad for him. I
what did
actually
you say
feel
yesterday?
sad for
It was
him.
Like the crash shows Stroll's commitment.
Yeah. I mean, that's almost a tongue-in-cheek. I mean, he's almost trolling people right now. He'll
They
come up with
have-
anything.
They have to be, right? That can't be serious.
Yeah, I mean, how can you be? How can you be serious about that? Yeah. Anyhow, by the way, there's this question from Vettel Hamilton. So, I mean, the guy is actually a huge F1 fan in that case. Question to you both. Do you think Max will be hard on himself because they say you can't win them all? Go ahead. What's your take?
I think, look, Max. The thing about Max that has been impressive for the last couple of years, and likewise with Red Bull, is they have obviously enjoyed the records, but when they talk, they have been consistent on one thing, which is we just try and put the best weekend together. And if
Yeah.
you do that for long enough, you'll break the records anyway. So
Yeah.
I think they'll be harder on themselves just because of what a mess they made of the weekend. Like,
Yeah.
the thing is, obviously, there's everyone on Twitter is blaming the technical directive, and
They're stupid.
if they are still struggling in Japan and Qatar, I
Oh,
will start
God.
to go, okay, maybe there's something to this. But right now, we all knew they would have a bad weekend. and it seems to be to the ride height. It seems that basically the ride height is a problem because usually they run lower than everyone else, and for this track they can't, and therefore that upset the entire balance of the car. They have
Yeah.
no data for that. I think where Max and Red Bull will be annoyed is the fact that they should have been able to minimize that more. And I think realistically, the moment that new upgrade didn't work in FP1, they should have said, right, switch back for FP2. Let's just get the setup right and let's just get on with this. And I think
Yeah.
by not doing that to FP3, they really made a mess of the weekend. So I
True.
think they'll forget about it pretty quickly when they win a championship in Japan. I think.
Yeah, that seems to be on the cards right now.
Yeah,
I-
like, at the end of the day, they could. I don't think they were going to win the rest of the races anyway. Personally, I think there would have been one race. It would
Yeah.
be here or Brazil or perhaps Mexico because the
The
likes
Honda
of-
power unit, yes.
It's that, and also the fact that Ferrari and McLaren specifically are still bringing big upgrades for, I think, or a lot of upgrades for the rest of the season. Aston
Yeah.
Martin probably won't matter, but they're bringing upgrades. Mercedes seem to have gotten their car kind of in the right window, so Brazil is always a good track for them. They have still some upgrades in the pipeline, and Red Bull don't. They have, I think, one or two minor changes, but now that their new change has brought them backwards, they could end up scrapping some of the following changes if they can't figure out why. So I don't think it was ever going to be on, like, as much as it would have actually been really cool to see a team for the first time in history win every race of the season. I don't think it was ever going to happen. I think it was just too much to ask. So I think he'll be annoyed. To answer your question, I think he'll be angry at the weekend, but
Yeah.
not because of the record. I think just because while they knew they'd have a bad weekend, they really made it even worse for themselves. Like they really
True.
screwed up. So
Yeah.
think
I mean,
that's where
but if you look at the results, do you think they screwed up?
the thing is, this is one of those things where if that was, any other team, bar
Yeah.
maybe Mercedes, because one thing I will say about Mercedes is they do generally make the best of a bad situation, generally speaking. But I think if that was any other team that was in such a bad situation and at one point it screwed up with the pit stops, they were in like 15th and 18th, and they finished 5th and 8th, you'd say really good recovery. But I think
Yeah.
just because it's Red Bull and Verstappen, it's like, ooh, we're only 5th place.
Yeah.
it's-
That's true. I actually feel they were maybe a bit unlucky with the strategy as well. The safety car timings.
Safety car was poor timing. Yeah.
Man, the true indication of how bad or how off the pace Red Bull was after that restart, the safety car restart. He was a sitting duck. There was nothing he could do.
It was out of every corner. The rear was just dropping.
Yeah.
And that, to be honest, watching them race again just more and more told me, okay, this is just the ride height because it was the rear end, obviously being up a little bit higher,
Yeah.
just could not get grip. So I'd be very, very, very surprised if they have any more issues at Japan or Qatar. I would imagine this is just a track that doesn't suit that car. Like we know they had the same. This is the funny thing is they actually had the exact same issue at Spa, but at Spa they were able to manage it. Basically coming down, I think it was the Kimmel Straight, the main
Well,
straight.
yeah.
They had to lift off a few times coming up there.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the car would bottom out, and that meant they would have, if they didn't back off, they would have had to raise the ride height. So they were in this
Yeah.
situation. But because they were so fast everywhere else, it didn't matter. They were able to just lift off and coast.
True.
And that was where GP was on the radio to Max saying, use your head, because he kept flooring it, and he was like, you're going to wear the plank out and we'll be disqualified. So
Exactly.
Um,
I mean, yeah. Overall, I feel I think the whole TD19 thing has been pretty much overblown. I don't see it having too much of an impact.
It didn't seem to affect anyone really. So it seems like everyone was relatively prepared for it. I think the other thing about the ride height, the last thing I'll say on that as well, is if you want proof that that's the case, look at how well Haas did this weekend. Haas obviously have a terrible car in general, and everyone has to kind of raise the ride height a little bit around Singapore, which means
Yeah.
everyone loses a little bit of downforce at a high downforce track, and Haas
Yeah.
all of a sudden are up with everybody.
Capitalized on
So
exactly.
that just is another piece of evidence. But yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think the TD affected. It didn't seem to affect anyone, really.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, I think we'll have to wait. We'll have to wait a couple of races to
We
see.
need to see at Japan and Mexico and Qatar because
I think Mexico is still a freak circuit in my view
I'm just trying to
because
think
of the high altitude.
where the high speed straights and so far. That's where we'll see it, because realistically, at Singapore, they're not going fast enough on the straights to use the
Yeah.
flexibility. So we're not really seeing.
Exactly, the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and that is why I said that the whole thing, that the TD19 ultimately led to this, the whole everything falling apart, is probably a bit off the mark.
Yeah.
And it's not a major change that they made to me. I mean, it's very minor change to the suspension, and if that is going to cost a second a lap, I don't understand. I don't really see.
The only part that Red Bull were using that was new by the time we hit qualifying in the race was a rear wing end plate. That was it.
Yeah,
Everything
that is it.
Because they brought a new floor. It was only a new floor edge, but they went back to the old floor edge. And somebody, as usual on my video, was like, "Oh, obviously they were using a floor edge from the start of the season that didn't have flexibility, and they were cheating." And I was like, "No, they were using the floor edge that was in Holland, so they were using that floor." So I'm like, you can literally go to the FIA and get like what parts they were
The
using.
entire thing has been, yeah, they
So-
share it every time.
So yeah, so I severely doubt that the rear wing end plate flexibility is what lost them a second. Like, there's no way. So it's just,
Yeah.
I think it's just Red Bull. Whenever a team dominates, we get this like anti-fans of them. You know. Like,
Exactly.
We saw it during Mercedes, we saw it during Ferrari. It's always the same.
Red Bull. I mean, I mean, everyone forgets this is the second reign that Red Bull is having already.
I know, yeah. Like, everyone's acting like it's been 5 years of dominance or something. It's actually only
Yeah.
the first season where they've dominated, because last year they fought Ferrari for half a season. Which
Look,
is
even in the
20
second half of the season, exactly, yeah. Even the second half of the season, Mercedes was competitive. Zandvoort was interesting. The race in, I think, Brazil, they lost. Mexico was interesting. Mexico, basically, Mercedes lost because of their own strategy. They chose the wrong tires.
Yeah.
It wasn't as straightforward as they make it out to be, because whatever I've seen is Max needs a couple of tenths of an advantage to win a race. He does not need the whole. He doesn't have bad races, so more often than not, he maximizes whatever he has.
Yeah.
That's why it all seems a bit too. It seems that the car is too good and the domination is too big. That's just not the case.
The thing is, like, as a Checo fan as well, I was kind of annoyed because there's a couple of. As you know as well, I'm a Checo fan, but I'm also a weird F1 fan, because the moment Checo does badly, I'm like, oh, come on, Norris. I just completely, like, I kind of follow everybody, you know, that way.
Yeah.
Like, so I have a favorite driver, but I'm not really that pushed. It's like I'm just
Yeah.
the sport. But the thing I saw today was, I can't remember, it might have been Bradley Philpott again, was saying, was it Max?
Man, that guy.
He's really, this is the thing, I've had a podcast with him. He's a really nice and reasonable guy in person, and he just likes to wind people up on
Let's
Twitter.
do one thing. Sai, if you're on chat, what are your views about Bradley Philpott?
But he said today, I think it was, oh, now that the cars aren't great or whatever, clearly, like, you know, look at the difference between Max and Checo. They're a lot closer. Coincidence? And I'm like, well, yeah, because obviously if the car has less potential, then Max isn't going to be able to draw out more potential. That's the whole
Yeah.
point. It's like, when the car is faster, Max can extract it all, and Checo seems to struggle to extract it all.
Exactly.
That is why there's a difference. So obviously if the car has less potential, there's less potential to extract. Like, it's not.
Pretty much that's the basis of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Look,
it's
the
like
thing
he
is,
said
why
about
he's
the
doing is,
I was
I'll
just
be
gonna
honest,
say,
why he
the
does
same thing with
this.
Hamilton, like, years ago.
Exactly, yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
I actually won't go into the whole Lewis versus Max debate, because it gets a bit pointless. Exactly. That's the
They're
word that
both
comes up.
Incredible generational talents. They don't need to be compared.
Let's keep it at that. I mean, that's the whole thing. And let's just leave it at that, because it's a silly discussion.
It's impossible
thing
to
is-
compare.
Yeah, and I actually have a question regarding this. Tell me one thing, what was your view, what's your takeaway about the way Max reacted the whole weekend? I mean, he was a bit unhinged yesterday.
Yeah.
Today, he was not. You didn't see him complaining too much. There was just one team radio where he said that it feels like driving on ice. But other than that, he kept his head down.
I think, to be honest, by the sound of the radio today, it sounded like he had kind of just given up. He was like, yeah, this is just what it is, you know.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I think by today, he just given up. The thing is, like, Max obviously screams and shouts on the radio a lot louder than some other people when things aren't going wrong. But I'm in two camps about this, and I remember defending, like, I didn't have a channel or a podcast at the time, but I remember when talking to people back when Hamilton was dominating.
Yeah.
I remember when the amount of times people, there was Seb backed him up famously once as well and said, you get in a car at 300 kilometers an hour.
True.
And when something
I
goes
remember that
wrong,
one.
try and stay calm. And I used to say the same thing. I would always defend Hamilton. I'm like, yeah, okay, look, sure, he's shouting and screaming, but
Yeah, I think he said. Oh yeah, I remember. He called Max a dickhead. That was
something like that, yeah. But like, it's this thing. If
Yeah.
if you're at that situation, to be honest, it's when a driver is in that situation, something goes horribly wrong, and they're like, it's okay. For me, I have more questions, because if you're a driver who wants to win a championship and you don't
Yeah.
expect perfection by your team, then you're never going to win that. And like,
Yeah.
the simplest version, go back to Schumacher. Like, the amount of times something would go wrong and Schumacher would walk into the pits and nearly be punching people. Like, he'd be, just livid at people. I
Yeah.
think Hamilton was the same. He's shouting down the radio, or sometimes Hamilton wouldn't shout. What he'd do is make kind of really kind of passive aggressive comments. Was his kind of style,
Yeah.
I think I expect that from these drivers. It's just, and anyone
Look,
who
it's-
disagrees, just the last thing I'll say, sorry, is why people road rage in a car. Someone overtakes you in a wrong way when you're driving down the highway, and you're like, you fucking asshole. Like, people do that. Now imagine that, but at 300 kilometers an hour, and you're racing wheel to wheel. Of course.
Exactly. That's going to happen,
Yeah.
and that's stupid. I mean, but the thing is, why I actually asked this question was, remember how he reacted last season in the same weekend. I mean, he was all over the place. He was angry. I think he didn't even attend the media. This time around, he was a bit more understanding, or probably you see a bit more maturity from him, and it is a bit surprising. I'll be honest.
If you listen to the team radio in the car, and then you watch him literally 15-20 minutes later in the paddock, in the media center, talking
Yeah.
to, I think it was Lawrence Barretto. He's like, look, we knew it was going to be a bad weekend. I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting it to be that bad. And he was like casual about it. I
Yeah.
think it's just, when you're in the car and adrenaline's pumping, you have to forget
Yeah.
these guys, no matter who it is.
Exactly.
It's human
And-
nature.
Okay, and now coming to a slightly more controversial topic.
Oh, lovely.
What's your take on the penalty, or the lack of penalty yesterday in qualifying?
Okay, so the thing is, the two that he got the reprimand for, I kind of thought, okay, fair enough. And I was expecting the third penalty to kind of go, okay, now you've got a 3-place grid.
Okay, just to explain everyone in the chat, the three were, first was
So
with the
there was
Yuki.
One for, the third one was for Yuki, the impeding. There was, I think there was another impeding, or it may have been two pit stop, stopping in the pit stop or slowing in the pits, or the pit lane, sorry. Remember, he stopped in the pit lane for a long time?
Yeah.
That was one of them. I think he either did that twice or he impeded again, but to a lesser extent. I can't remember exactly, but there was three.
There were three cases, yeah.
Three, yeah. Well, I can pull them up if needs be, but I think that's what they were. So the first two were the pit lane and whatever the other one was, and those were reprimands.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw those two were reprimands, I thought they're going to do what they always do. They don't want to give like a 9-place drop. So what they're going to do is reprimand twice and then give a 3-place penalty for the other one.
Yeah.
And then they didn't, so he just got 2 reprimands, I think. And the controversy around this is the fact that the third one that he didn't get anything for was for the impeding with Yuki. And Yuki and AlphaTauri's representative didn't show up to the hearing.
Yeah.
So that's been the big controversy, because obviously it's a Red Bull team, right?
Yeah.
I can completely see that argument. I get it. The problem I have is that I think there is a consistent problem that we see with this all the time anyway, that needs to be fixed in this situation, which is whenever it's teammates, right? So if it's Alonso, or like I saw it before, Hamilton impeding Russell, or I think it was the other way around maybe, and because they're teammates, nothing happens. It's always the case because they're teammates. The problem Red Bull has kind of stirred up here is Yuki and Max are contracted by the same company, but they're technically not teammates. So I think it was let go because in a way one team didn't really push for it. They're like, like when you see with Mercedes, when it's like Hamilton and Russell, they're like, oh, it's teammates, let it go. We're fine,
Exactly.
we're not going to push. The problem here is they're not technically teammates, even though they're technically teammates. And
Yeah.
I think that the FIA should have made an example there and said, look, if you were actually teammates, we'd take that argument, but you're not. So they probably should have pushed something down.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, the last part on that is they need to do it more consistently, because I've seen it happen with Ferrari and Haas as well, where the Haas
Yeah.
representative hasn't wanted to kind of push at Ferrari because Ferrari and Haas are close.
Yeah.
So I think they just need to stop this whole thing of if they're teammates or if they're friendly. It's like, no, just
Doesn't make any sense.
did he impede? Yes, 3-place penalty, consistent.
Yeah.
It shouldn't make a difference who is the two drivers. Teammates, customer teams, owned by the same team, shouldn't make any difference.
I agree.
So I understand why people were annoyed, but I think they're placing their annoyance at the wrong. They're placing their annoyance at Red Bull for owning two teams. They should be placing their annoyance, as always, with the FIA for making
FIA,
the
yeah.
decision.
I think for me, the bigger question mark was the reasoning that they gave. The reasoning was that the team did not inform the driver, and hence the driver was not at fault. What rubbish is that?
Yeah, they do this a lot, though, don't they?
No. The thing is, why it pissed me off was because in Monaco we had this happen with Charles. Charles
Yeah.
impeded Lando, I think, in the tunnel, and he was given a 3-place penalty, and I think it was deserved. The problem was from, I think, the race did an article on this, and they clarified that until the summer break there was a certain set of stewards who had handled all these impeding incidents,
Okay.
and they were giving out penalties.
Is
Since
it
the summer
different-
break,
Is it different stewards for these after ones than
yeah,
during? Yeah.
apparently.
Okay.
I mean, there is a huge pool from which
Yeah.
they are picked up, and apparently there's no overlap between the ones in Monaco and the ones here. So what happens is every steward has a subjective view of an impeding incident, and which is stupid.
I just like the problem I have is that, like, in other sports you have a referee, right? So in football you have one referee, and it's a different referee at different games. That's normal.
So apparently, by the way, there were two impeding incidents. I don't know which one was the second one.
I know
Yeah.
the last one that they talked about was the Yuki one. So he got 2 reprimands for whatever the first two, and then the Yuki
Yeah,
was the last.
third was this.
The thing is with F1 is that I think the problem we have is that you've got referees in every sport, right? And I'm okay
Yeah.
with. I'm okay with I get why they have different stewards everywhere.
They can't be the same one.
I
It's
get
not
that,
possible.
But they should really have a more consistent. Even if they had one steward who was the same steward every weekend and then changed 2 out, because they have 3 stewards, I think it is normally.
Yeah.
Even if they did that, just so that one can be there for consistency, to be like, look, we had this exact same situation here. This is why we chose this. Or do what they were supposed to be doing and have the command center be like, this is what the decision was the last 5
Exactly.
minutes.
It needs to be that. There needs to be certain precedents that, okay, for this particular incident, we have given this penalty. And even if there is flexibility on penalty, there has to be a penalty.
They should do exactly what they do in football now, which is they use AI and all the other stuff to kind of say, here. The difference is they shouldn't let the AI make the decision, or it should be what this is.
Exactly.
But if you could have that presented to the 3 guys to say, look, 5 out of the last 6 times this was the decision, and the
Yeah.
only difference here is he took X line instead of Y line.
They should have this clarify. They should clarify this thing.
They're supposed to, and yet we still see these silly decisions. So I don't understand it.
You know what I worry about the most? I worry about the fact that in the last couple of seasons, since we've not had an intense championship battle, these stewards, even though they got exposed in 2021, they haven't made any changes. They are still incompetent. And if next season we have a close championship, every decision is going to be scrutinized, and they will again come off as incompetent idiots. And that is what I worry about the most.
And we will, like, it maybe not next year, but 2025, we will definitely have
Either of
championship.
yeah, 100%.
Like, one of those years we will, because Red Bull's having diminishing returns now, and the other teams are catching up. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
They really need to fix it. Like, The problem is we had Charlie Whiting for years, who was able to fix all of this because he knew, like, just from experience.
Look,
Charlie
I
Whiting,
mean, I honestly, I don't agree with you on that
not
at all.
everything, but
Charlie had his share of fuck ups.
it was a
It's
lot
always this
better than
thing.
now. Though.
He had been doing it for 30 years as well. No, if I do
Yeah.
something for 30 years, I'll be half decent at that as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
But they need to. The problem was they just need to have some system in place where. The thing is, I would understand all these issues years ago before you had all this computing and camera technology. But at the end of the day, right now, they could have cameras on every single car tracked by computer technology to give them all of the exact data and say, look, you don't need to go and review anything. Here is
Exactly.
exactly all the data, and it should be a really quick kind of split decision. It shouldn't
Yeah.
be. Yeah, like it just needs to be better, and it needs to get better quickly because, like
Exactly.
you said, if we
I mean, look,
lose
I
the
don't.
title fight, we're screwed.
Exactly, man. What I hated about the look yesterday, I was the first one who tweeted this thing, and my most of my followers are kind of pro Red Bull,
Yeah.
and not many of them liked those tweets because I was quite open with it that okay, here's the thing, it's almost a joke that the same incident could actually cause a penalty to Charles
Yep.
and even to Yuki as well in one of the races apparently, but nothing here for Logan as well as Max.
It should just be consistent. There's just
Yeah.
that's all we're asking for. Because if we get
Exactly.
if we get a title fight and people don't like the decisions, it doesn't matter. It's just consistency. Because even the drivers have said, we want to know exactly what we can do because that way we can drive as hard as we are allowed to, and we're not
And
questioning.
and you know what this actually this is actually a pretty nice segue when we talk about what we can do and what we can get away with.
Yeah.
Let's move to Mercedes. What the fuck was Lewis doing at the start of the race?
Oh, yeah. So this
And Sai, as I've seen your question, we'll get to it as well. It's about Lewis as well. So yes.
Yeah, I had an argument on Twitter immediately about this because as soon as it happened, I said, look, the thing is, he was alongside Lando until the braking point.
Yeah.
And then he came in and he was aroundside George.
Yeah.
Like, if you watch it, you can see that he pulls alongside George very late. So George probably didn't know he was there until
It was premeditated. He knew what he was doing. He knew
That's-
it.
to me,
And he made it too obvious.
to
The
me,
problem was he
looked
made it too
like that
obvious.
because he braked so late and he didn't. He braked really late and the tires didn't even look like they were struggling. So it wasn't like
Yeah.
he was slammed to try and get in. And then he also, as he was coming into that corner, he was like on the thing that again Bradley Philpott shared with me was him alongside the back wheel of Russell, right? Which by at that point he had half a track. He could have easily just backed off slightly, fell in behind Russell and gone around.
If he wanted, no, he would not have. The thing was, ultimately, when they are supposed to brake, he was right alongside Norris.
Yeah.
He braked so late because he never intended to make the corner. It
That's
was
what it
so.
looked like.
It's.
That's what it looked like. The
It
thing
was
is-
so premeditated. The thing is, when Alonso does it, because Alonso does it a lot, he does it in a subtle manner.
Yes.
Lewis made it so obvious. What the fuck are you doing? It was so obvious, and look, even George was like, okay, is he going to give the place back or not? But
Yeah.
what is he doing?
And Norris called it immediately. As soon as I put it on Twitter, obviously there was a lot of Hamilton fans very annoyed with me and bringing out photos.
Wow, yeah.
One of the photo that they kept sharing was the one where Hamilton, ironically, the one where they were like, he was way ahead of Norris. Look where he was in the corner. But then when I said, okay, well, but like he didn't give, he wasn't, and then they were like, and he was forced off by George. So they're showing me a picture where he's way ahead of Norris, has enough
Yeah.
space to like move out of the way of George and not get forced off. But he doesn't. And then when I'm like, but George didn't force him off. He like went
Yeah.
into the corner too deep. There was nowhere, like, what was George going to do? Move over to the side of the track and ruin his race? George owned the corner. Like, that's the way it is. So, I don't know. I think the problem is that Hamilton, when he's done it with Max a couple of times,
Yeah.
where he's kind of gone off track and come back in front of Max, whereas Max has stayed, like George did, by the way, and this was my argument, and this is why I disagreed with everyone. George made the corner inside the white lines. He did not
Exactly.
force him off. He made the turn fine, and he was well ahead. He was entitled to that corner. So George didn't force him off. He braked too late for Norris, and I think that Lewis has done it a couple of times with Max and gotten away with it, and that's what
Abu Dhabi 2021.
let's not mention the war, but there's been a couple of times as well where he's done it.
Oh yeah, and every time it's like Max pushed me off. And today, even on the first lap, he said George pushed me off.
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck? Who are you?
I had a bit of an argument with it on Twitter, and my argument as well was, look, okay, you can disagree with me, but I said since I've posted that, Brundle immediately was like, yeah, that was naughty. Like Brundle was like, that's deserved. The stewards or the race director was like, that could be a penalty with the stewards, and Mercedes didn't fight it. So I'm like, look, Brundle's agreeing with me. The race director obviously agrees with me, and Mercedes haven't even argued with it on the radio. They were just like, yeah, that's fine. So I'm like, clearly they know, and he would have got a penalty for it. He had to hand it
easily 5-second penalty easily. There was no doubt about it.
So,
and the problem was, he could have been more subtle in the manner that when he went off, he could have slowed down. He did not slow down. He stepped on the accelerator and went ahead. And when he rejoined, he was so far ahead of Russell. And he's like, he just took a shortcut. What are we doing here?
And it was just to be honest, the part of having to give the Norris place back. If it had have just been Norris, I would have been like, okay, he took a lunge, it didn't work, but you could argue, there's two sides to the argument. My argument was, look, he clearly braked too late and was never intending to hit that corner. He should give it back to Norris. The other side is he was ahead of Norris going into the corner. Fair enough. There is two sides to the argument. When it comes to George and saying George forced you off, it's like, nah, sorry.
Come on, man.
No.
I mean, who are you making a fool out of? Because people are not fools. You can see the thing was, if Alonso and let's be clear, if it was Alonso, what he would have done was he would have slowed down sufficiently to show that okay, I made a mistake. I'm going through here in slow, and in that case, he would have been able to keep his place from Norris at least.
Yeah.
But Lewis made it so obvious that okay, I'm going to go through this. He
didn't get forced off by, like, you can see it's just ironic that in the image that the Lewis Hamilton fans shared, like the big time.
Oh man, the stupidity! I've seen that stupidity even in the during the whole British GP 2021.
But it's
it didn't even make sense.
Share the image of him being ahead of Norris, and then when you're like, okay, but he was clearly not ahead of George, and they're like, yeah, but George forced him off. And I'm like, but in the image you just showed, Lewis had plenty of space to back out, and he was never gonna like hit that apex in front of George.
Yeah.
It's like, so which is it?
Exactly.
And then at that point, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna watch the rest of the race and not bother with this argument. Like,
I mean, I made it a point to just keep. I've muted most of them. I mean, there are so many literally foolish people on. They're just there to have pretty much incite more hate. I haven't got into an argument with that guy. Natural Paradigm. What is his name? Bryson Sullivan. Sullivan.
Yeah.
Man, that guy. I mean, he made yesterday's what was it? Yesterday, since Max got away with a penalty, he brought out a penalty in 2019, 2018, and what happened to Lewis? Just to pretty much put across a point that Lewis is being unfairly treated, and like just get lost, man.
There's a vocal. Honestly, as well, I don't want to just bash on Hamilton fans because there is a vocal part of Max's fan base as well.
Oh yeah, and they're same.
They're really irritating. It's like Max. They're the same. It's like Max can't do anything wrong, and everything Hamilton does is wrong. I think the problem is I'm kind of a fan that, like I said earlier, it's like I shout for Checo, but then as soon as Checo Checo's having an off race or he DNFs or whatever, and Norris is up front, I'm like, oh wow, Norris, this is amazing. Like I just want to see a good race. I don't care who
exactly, man. Look, at the end of the day, 4 or 5 years down the line, one of these drivers are going to leave. What are we going to do then? I mean, I don't want to leave the sport. This is one of the things that I follow pretty much most passionately for 20 plus years now. So we can't really hinge all our bets on the person. It has to be on the sport.
The problem I have is I was a Red Bull fan. I'd say I still am to some extent a Red Bull fan, mainly Checo at the moment. My problem is I kind of now am more in the boat of like McLaren or Aston, because I think my issue is I always like the underdog. So as soon as a team starts winning over and over again, I'm like,
Yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah, but
I just want to see competition. Bring back what
Hamilton-
happened in 2021.
I'm a massive Hamilton fan again this year as well because he's driving incredibly. It got really boring
True.
for 7 years, you know.
Yeah.
It's like winning all the time. Not that the last 2 years of Hamilton has been way more exciting.
Fun to watch.
Yeah.
Fun to watch, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can just stay off the mic and keep the whining away, I think it would make it a bit more palatable. But that is where it just goes.
I'm starting to think F1 would be better if I deleted Twitter, but I'm not sure. So,
Yeah.
sorry, X.
X. I mean, it's the same shit in Instagram as well. I tried to take a look. I think everyone shares a lot of toxic
Oh,
posts.
I think just get rid of social media.
Social media altogether.
But then the problem is I've got YouTube comments and they're just as angry. So, and I make a living off of that. So I can't
Look,
really.
the thing is, take the good with the bad. So that is what it comes down
The
to.
way I see it is my YouTube payment literally pays me to put up with the comments. That's
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah. It is a bit of that.
Yeah.
So, by the way, talking about Mercedes, I mean, I had a hunch. Do you think Mercedes was the fastest car this weekend?
Oh, that's tough. I would still think the Ferrari, and the only reason I would say the Ferrari is that even near the end, it seemed like Sainz was very much like he said he had a second in hand, and sometimes you kind of look at that and you're like, yeah, do you though? But the way he was able to control the race, I tend to believe it, and I think the Ferrari was the fastest, and the fact is the Mercedes were really quick at the end, but that was definitely due to the tire offset. So
No, that's true. That's true.
you know, I think it was the Ferrari. I think the Ferrari was the fastest overall, and it was nice to see them not struggle with tire deg because that was. I genuinely thought that Norris would win the race just based on the fact that I thought the Ferrari would eat its tires up by the end, and I thought it would be Sainz having a Russell moment going into the wall as the tires kind of
Yeah.
gave up, you know.
I actually thought McLaren was the third fastest car. I mean, I don't think it had the outright pace. In the end, it did seem like Sainz was just fiddling him along so that he can just keep his position safe.
Yeah.
That was so smart from him as well.
Yeah,
So,
I don't
yeah.
think Norris at any point could have, if the
Challenged.
Mercedes had got ahead, I don't think Norris could have challenged.
No chance.
Defensive work from Norris as well was absolutely incredible.
hit the wall and nothing happened to me.
Yeah.
His post race comments.
But
By the way,
he kept Russell behind, and if he hadn't,
Yeah.
Russell probably wouldn't have made the mistake.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Russell got a bit. He got a bit impatient, probably, but it happens. You have to be a bit desperate. He was after a win.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, the Lewis Hamilton overtake of Sergio Perez. Do you think it was fine or what? What the fuck happened there? Because my initial reaction was he should have been penalized.
Oh yes, sorry. I was trying to think. I was like, what happened here? Because there was quite a bit happening in this race when he put all four wheels off the track.
Yeah.
My thinking at the time was, I think he was ahead before he crossed the line. I think.
Yeah, but he outbraked. No, what happened was he outbraked.
The
Checo
same
into-
argument as the first lap. No.
Yeah.
This is the thing, to be honest, I don't know because I didn't watch it that closely. But from what I saw was he was ahead, before he crossed over.
Yeah. He was ahead.
Yeah. And then I don't know if you gain an advantage by clipping that curb. That's the real question. But under the rule of the regs, if you complete the move off track, which they were,
He kind of did.
They were
Yeah.
still side by side as he
Yeah.
completed the move.
Hmm.
Yeah, it technically probably should have been if you went by the exact rules, it probably should have been a penalty.
By the way, you were following the Sky Sports commentary or the F1 TV?
Sky Sports, but on F1 TV. So on F1 TV, I switched to international.
Yeah.
Which is Sky Sports. Yeah.
I do the same thing. I mean, I watch it on F1 TV, but
Brundle said something about it, didn't he? He was
I can't. I keep myself away from the Sky Sports broadcast because I can't handle the toxicity.
See, I don't mind I don't mind Brundle and Crofty at the race weekends are fine. They don't really bother me that much. I think they're a nice balance as well. I think maybe Brundle has decided to balance out Ted Kravitz because Ted Kravitz is
Sort
the one
of,
that annoys me.
yes.
Because I've noticed that Ted Kravitz will
Oh
monitor
god,
Max,
unprofessional, unprofessional, man.
but then Ted, I think, maybe got enough flack that I've realized in the last 3 or 4 races, Ted
Hmm.
Kravitz has been kind of like, no, Max did nothing wrong here a few times. And I'm like, I
Is it?
wonder did people start shouting at him and like stop.
I think it might have happened. I think Johnny Herbert lost his job because of that. Because he was being too. I think it became a bit. The whole garb of neutrality that they had, at least to an extent, Johnny just threw it away and he was pretty much anti Max Verstappen at one
Yeah.
point. And it became a bit ugly to watch. So,
My issue with it, because I've had, again, like I always get drawn into these arguments on the YouTube channel or on Twitter or something. There's been a few people who are like, yeah, but they're entitled to their opinions and whatnot, like just like the people on YouTube. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, there's a difference though, because if I'm on YouTube, right, and I start shouting that, Max is a terrible driver because of X, Y, and I start saying that,
yeah.
you have a very clear choice not to listen to me, right? But they have the contract to be an international broadcaster, and if
Exactly.
you're watching Formula One, for a lot of people, they don't have a choice of commentary. This is what they listen to, so they have a higher standard to be part of than what I do. If I go
Yeah.
and shout about Hamilton or Verstappen, you can just click unsubscribe and stop listening to me. It's not a big deal. But if you're watching the race, there's a lot of people who have to listen to these, and
Exactly.
they own the contract from Formula One, or they lease the contract.
Exclusive rights. Exactly.
So they should have to stand up to a higher bar.
And for me, the thing is, initially, I used to defend Sky Sports as well for this thing because I always felt it's not Sky's responsibility to be fair. Why? Because at the end of the day, their target audience is British. The whole this red button kind of thing, whatever Crofty used to blabber, they are for the British audience. They're not for me. It's sitting in India. It's not for me.
Yeah.
The issue was with Formula One because it did not have a more neutral outlet at that point in time.
I suppose, which it does now, which is
It does now.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
Choice.
that is why I actually feel this is actually a result of what happened in 2021. Because after that time, they finally realized that the whole coverage was becoming too one-sided. And that's why they
Yeah.
had to butt in.
Yeah, and they
I think
probably
I-
realized that some fans will be happy, but you're alienating like an
Entire.
fan group, basically.
Yeah. Because the thing was,
At least.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, enough of Mercedes. Moving to Ferrari. Look, what happened to them? What do you think is the reason for the reversal of fortunes, especially in Singapore? We'll talk about science later, but
The thing is, it's not.
I did not expect
Singapore.
Ferrari to be this strong, by the way, this weekend.
How did they do in? I'm just trying to think. So they did well last week, or not last week, the week before in Monza. Right?
Monza,
But how did they do in the Dutch Grand Prix, the one before that?
not well, poor,
Not-
poor.
Right. Okay.
Because even Gasly overtook Sainz on track,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
the Alpine was quicker.
The thing is, I think they've gotten on top of their tire deg issues by the looks of it. You would have to imagine, to an extent, anyway.
I'm
And I think
still a
that's-
bit skeptical.
So
I'm
am
still a
I.
bit skeptical.
At
Yeah.
this track, they seemed okay with it. It's like the
Mhm.
technical directive. If they continue to be able to do it at Japan and Qatar, I'll start.
Wow.
But I'm joking. But yeah. If the thing is with the Ferrari was really quick over one lap for a lot of the season. And
Yeah.
even since Barcelona, they've obviously been working on that upgrade, and they've consistently been quite good in qualifying, and that's been their good point. But the problem has been they've been killing their tires in the race. So I wonder
Yeah.
if it's a case of if they've just figured out now how to, keep the tires in a better window. That
Yeah.
actually is their key issue. So I think if they fix their tire deg issues, they are more or less on par with the likes of Mercedes and McLaren, I think, in terms of just pace. I don't actually think they're that far off on pace. I think it's the tire deg and the strategy, let's be honest. They've never been good at strategy.
Even here, it's 1-5. A driver 1-4 or 1-4.
Yeah.
Yeah, Russell crashed out in the end. It's still, I mean, I'm still not sure what happened here because I actually had flashbacks of what happened in 2019. Ferrari, after struggling the entire season, all of a sudden found something in Spa and Monza that was predictable. They were supposed to do well there, but then they turn up to Singapore
Hmm.
and they pretty much nailed the entire weekend.
Yeah,
That was Seb's last win
I
as well.
actually think as well that this today with the Leclerc, the double stack, Leclerc got destroyed in the double stack because obviously he had to wait for Hamilton to pass.
Yeah,
That cost him time. I think they executed perfectly today because they made that decision. Like I don't think Ferrari over the course of the season, even if a double stack was the best, would have been hesitant to pull a double stack. They would have left Sainz out and brought Leclerc in. Whereas today they said no, screw it, double stack, let's do it. Like they just pulled the trigger, did it for better or for worse. It didn't quite work out for Leclerc, but if Leclerc had have been slightly faster in, I think it was, or Sainz, one of them, I think coming in.
no. Leclerc can't be no. If he was slightly faster, it would have been even worse. Cause Russell would have
Drop
sure
off.
shot jumped him.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So-
suppose there's no way they could have done any better there. But I think it's good that they made the call. I think if they had a left Leclerc out, it would have been even worse because that probably would have not only left Leclerc with worse tyres, he probably would have held
He
up
had a
Sainz,
soft tire as well, so
and
it
he
would have been.
held up Sainz and caused problems. for
Yeah.
Sainz. So
Yeah, exactly. It didn't
I
make
think
any sense.
if Ferrari have fixed their tyre deck issues, we could see a
Hmm.
strong Ferrari for the rest of the season because that was their one big issue.
True. Because these are two entirely different tracks at which Ferrari has done well.
Yeah.
Monza and the Singapore could not be any different.
Yeah.
So could not be more different. Anyways,
So I think
one thing though, leaving Charles out when during the VSC,
Mhm.
what's your take on that?
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was a bad call.
And the thing was, he actually came on the team radio and he said we should pit, and he was overruled. And that's the thing. In these circumstances, Carlos Sainz would have put his foot down and said, "No, we are pitting."
Yeah, I think if Sainz had been in Leclerc's situation, he would have just said box. Like I'm boxing,
Yeah.
get the tires ready. Because, but at that time, I'm trying to think because obviously Sainz they didn't want to box because, track position is king there. So that's,
Exactly.
and it was a call that worked out. Obviously, if Mercedes had won this race, we'd probably be sitting here going they should have been more aggressive and boxed. It's like I think that's
Yeah.
it is the funny thing. It depends on how it works out. But was Leclerc behind the Mercedes when they boxed?
Yeah,
under virtual?
he was,
Okay,
he
so
was.
they should have split the strategy there and boxed. They didn't
Pretty
have
much.
the problem I think at the time was they didn't have any medium tires.
No, they did.
They didn't have any medium ones.
No, Charles started on a soft, right? He did not start on the medium. So the
Another
medium,
medium?
yeah,
Oh, they did. Yeah, for Sainz they didn't. For Charles they did. You're right. So
yeah.
yeah, so
That's
actually they should have called that. Yeah. They should have
Yeah, it-
basically said if Mercedes pit box behind them and been ready.
he would have probably been still the same position. I think he would have been P5 only, but P4 only. But he would not have been like 2020. Yeah, he might have been more challenging, probably.
Might have had a fighting chance, yeah, to get ahead of one of them.
Yeah, exactly. He had a piss poor race though. Overall, Charles,
I just feel like
something's
Leclerc has
not
checked
working.
out. I feel like he's just checked out. He just doesn't give a shit for this season. I don't know why. Everything from Leclerc. He's normally upset, emotional, annoyed, and this season he's like, it's real.
Yeah, I think the last 4 or 5 races something has happened.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
Are you
If-
saying he signed a contract with Red Bull or something? Is that true?
no, I don't think anyone would be. I don't think Red Bull is foolish enough to sign another such a major talent alongside Max.
I think
I don't think they're.
I think they would sign Norris, and I think Norris.
I don't think so. I don't think they will.
No.
No chance. No chance at all. Because look,
You're
it's
right. Yeah, you're right.
it's just you can just sit down and take a look at the number of failed teammates who were like just neck and neck in terms of talent and level.
Yeah.
It's always going to turn out badly,
Yeah.
other than probably Lauda and Alain Prost, but they had a huge age difference. I actually don't
suppose-
remember.
I suppose for Red Bull, probably they want to bring up a young gun to come in to fight against Max to kind of take over from Max. I think this is why
Max is too young. No, the thing is,
Yeah,
Max
but
is too young.
Max could easily quit in 2028. He wants to do other stuff.
You think he will?
I think it depends. Okay, if he's gotten to 2028, right, and say in 2026, Red Bull drop off and become the third fastest team again, right? I think he'll stick around longer. But I think if he's winning the championship in 2028, I think he sticks around till maybe 29, 30 maximum, and he just goes, right, I'm out of here, I'm done. Like,
Yeah.
I could see him just going, if he got to the point where he gets a chance at an 8th title, I could see him doing it just as a fuck you and then stepping out. Like, you know, that would be the exact type of thing I'd expect from Max. Just like,
He will be.
the best now?
Is it 23, right? 23 is his third title.
25.
No. I mean, in 2023 he has the third title.
Yes.
Look, if he's winning every title until 28, when he has a contract, he will be an 8-time champion anyways.
Yeah,
So-
that's my point. So he could just go, yeah, I'm done now. Because
Yeah,
I would be very much like,
nothing's
he could
left.
Literally just hold it up, go, thank you, Hamilton, drop it, and walk away. You know, that would be the time.
Oh my god.
Where he could.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
And Fernando Alonso would still be driving alongside any other
Fernando
team.
Alonso will be driving long after he's able to walk, or long
Yeah.
after he'll be in a, like, they'll take him out of the wheelchair, sit him in the car.
Yeah, and he'll still beat his teammate.
Yes.
that's what's going to happen.
I think just on the Max Verstappen thing, I think it's going to be Ricciardo and Verstappen next year until Lawson's.
That's what I feel. That's what I feel.
I think Checo.
But I do think next season, at least in the first half, Red Bull will be a bit nervous to put any other unknown entity alongside Max, because who knows how they will perform.
I think they will put Ricciardo in that seat for 2024. I think in December, Checo will be dropped. Might be
Oh,
given,
that would be so sad.
he might be given the option to go to AlphaTauri alongside Lawson or Yuki, whatever way that works out. But I think they'll drop him. And I say that as a Checo fan. I think the issue is, now that the teams get closer and closer, Checo now...
You need the
3
second
years-
driver.
And for 3 years in a row, I think it's from Silverstone onwards, he's had 5 or 6 races where it's always poor. He has a great
Yeah.
start to the season, really poor middle, and great end to the season.
Yeah.
And I think that Red Bull might go, if this is close next year, we can't afford him to check out for like a third of the season.
Chunk of the season, yeah.
And
His qualifying is hurting
And-
majorly.
They kept saying constantly that in Silverstone tyre test, Ricciardo would have been up there in qualifying with Max.
Yeah.
They pointed it out about 1,700 times, and that just tells me they're giving themselves an excuse so that at the end of the year they can go, look, Checo's great, but we need someone who's closer in qualifying, and we know Ricciardo is closer in qualifying.
You know, that's the Horner speak. if we talk about Mr. Helmut Marko,
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, probably a bit controversial. What's your take on the whole comments that he made?
Helmut Marko?
Yeah.
I am in the same boat as Checo. I couldn't give a fuck. The reason is,
Huh.
honestly, it's just Helmut Marko says really stupid, terrible things
Yeah.
about 14 times a day, and I kind of just... It's like when Clarkson does something controversial, I'm just like, eh. The difference is Clarkson's also entertaining, so he has that nice side to it, whereas Helmut Marko has the nice side that he does bring up really good drivers. So, you know.
Still does.
He
I mean,
just-
he's still doing that.
I kind of, as soon as Checo was like, I don't care, I was like, well, if Checo's not offended, then why would I be? You know, like,
Yeah.
You know, I had to laugh at it because he said that Checo was from South America, which he's not. He's from Mexico. I'm in Mexico right now. It's in North America, Mexico. It's literally part of the North American Free Trade Agreement. So first of all, it's not even in Central America. It's in North America. So that was a pointless statement. And second of all, he said, you know, that people from South America, they don't have the same driving focus. Somehow
Argentina,
forgetting
one Manuel Fangio.
Senna,
Yeah.
like Fangio,
The two of
Senna,
them.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Montoya, fucking Massa, like all these drivers, you know.
Oh, Massa, you mean the 2008 F1 World Champion?
Yeah, of course. Never forget.
Never forget that one.
This is a funny, it's a funny conversation on Twitter as well, because basically even Toto Wolff is bringing up. He's like, "Oh, if he wins that court case, it'll be interesting for us to watch." And you're like, "No,
It won't.
make any
No.
difference." There is a big legal difference between the two. Mercedes knew what happened at Abu Dhabi and decided not to legally
Not to do
challenge.
anything.
The
Yeah.
reason that Massa is able to challenge, one, he's only
Recent
asking for-
development.
he's only asking for money anyway, so it doesn't make any
Yeah.
difference. But yes, recent development. Bernie Ecclestone said they knew about it at the time. If that
Exactly.
is true, then obviously he is entitled to something. He's not going to get the title. They're not going to.
No, it's not possible.
No.
Yeah,
But he will get truckloads of money shipped to Brazil. You know.
exactly. Obviously, I mean, the thing is, look, my main gripe with the media is entirely on one point. Look, if it was not Felipe Massa and if it was a Lewis Hamilton,
Mm-hmm.
the entire conversation would have been different.
Yep.
They would have literally sat down and interviewed him twice, thrice, 4 times. Okay, why are you actually going ahead with something like this?
If
And they would have written whole features on Lewis started his career here and then he went to do this. This was his lifelong dream and yada yada yada.
took it
A
away.
lot of things, and they took it away from him.
If you're
And
right.
here we have a driver. I mean, look, Lewis can win 10 titles with Mercedes. A Ferrari world champion is a Ferrari world champion. There's no doubt about
The
it.
same people who are arguing right now that Massa, Massa should just shut up about it, are the exact same people that 2 tweets later are going, "Why aren't we talking about Abu Dhabi still?" You know, it's like, it's the same.
Oh, God.
It's like I said, it's a small percentage of fans. I
Yeah.
don't think Massa should get the title. The thing is, I think
It's
that
not possible.
realistically, I do feel for him because, and a lot of people will have this silly argument that, oh, if that 2008 was struck, like if that race was struck, the whole season would have changed anyway. I'm like, you can't say that. You can only say what actually happened.
Exactly.
That race was cancelled, which people are saying like, oh
It
yeah.
should be, man. It's
people
a
are saying
fixed
it should
race, for
destroy,
fuck's sakes.
What is it? People are saying the argument is that Renault should be the only ones removed from it. But you can't
That's
do that
stupidest
because
argument
the
ever.
The incident took place on lap 14. So if you can't, there's no way to know from lap 14 to the end what would have changed. So
Exactly.
The only option is to cancel the race.
Yeah.
So,
Because that was a chain of events that actually it threw everything out of whack.
Yeah.
And look, my main gripe has always been, okay, look, fine, I think I'll be the first to establish that Massa will not be anointed the 2008 F1 world champion. It does not happen.
Yeah.
15 years later, this is not going to happen.
no.
And but the point is, at least put his point across. Why is he actually ultimately, look, Brazilians are pretty passionate people, and
Yeah.
look what he lost, that was his peak year. He worked throughout his career, throughout his life, left Brazil to go to Europe to race.
Yeah.
From there he became the best, and he became the best after Ayrton Senna,
Yeah.
the god of Brazil, basically.
I'm gonna do a full for February. You know, I've started the second channel doing documentaries. I think
Yeah.
I told you.
Yeah.
I'm planning a second or a Formula One documentary, like a full length kind of hour and a half documentary for February, and I'm
Okay.
between two topics. And interestingly, one of them is to go into 2008 and like go through the season.
Yeah.
Mainly focus on trying to get conversations behind the scenes to like what happened at Crashgate, like, you know, like
Yeah.
as Bernie said. The other
Hmm.
option is to do the financial crisis, the budget cap, when almost all the teams basically walked away, and it was only because Max Mosley was caught in a sex scandal that it
The 2009 thing.
2009, 2010. So
yeah, yeah.
my two options are either to kind of cover the Massa thing, like what happened, and, you know, Spygate, Crashgate, all of that kind of craziness around that time. I think
Yeah.
what I might do is just maybe make the documentary like Formula One's most turbulent time, because there was Crashgate, Spygate,
Everything.
budget caps, all in that 3-year period. Like, it was just
Yeah.
crazy. But yeah, I'll link you to it when it's done. Right now,
Yeah.
I'm doing a Zodiac killer documentary though. So
Yeah, you shared a teaser or something on Twitter, something like that.
yeah, I
right?
just published a UFO document. My plan is now to do one documentary a month, but like really high.
It takes a lot of effort.
It's
Yeah.
one month to do one, and even then, I'll probably need to build a team, because even a month is too short, because the quality is not where I want it to be yet. So I might need to hire like an editor and a designer just to make sure it's
Yeah.
because my goal is in 2 or 3 years to have every single month like a Netflix quality documentary put on YouTube,
Yeah.
which is really tough because I have to forget all the YouTube rules because the YouTube rules are like fast, 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 and the documentary rules are like slow.
Look, do it. Yeah, do it at your own pace. I mean, after a certain point, if you have a certain following, it doesn't really make much of a difference.
Yeah.
You do it at your own pace, you get things done.
But the
Anyhow,
Formula One
okay.
documentary.
By the way, let's get back to the race because others will doze off.
Yes.
There are actually quite a few that have.
Actually, we've been an hour and 20 minutes. We should probably start wrapping.
Yeah, seriously, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't actually have to sit and do the driver ratings and everything for the website.
Okay.
Yeah. So where were we? I think we've done Mercedes, we've done Ferrari,
Red Bull.
McLaren.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I mean, in terms of the result, I think that's the maximum that they could have hoped with Norris.
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind with McLaren as well is they brought the final, I think it's the final 25% of their big upgrade this weekend. They brought a huge amount of parts.
Yeah.
Like the last big chunk. I think they'll have a couple more upgrades. But the fact that
You
they
saw
brought-
that FIA document?
Yeah.
The whole car was circled.
Basically the whole car circled, yeah. So this was,
Yeah.
they brought 25% at Austria, 50% at Silverstone, and this is the last
Yeah.
25%. The thing is, I think this is the best they could have hoped for, especially because when you bring a big upgrade like that, you don't understand the settings. You know, it's going to take a race or two to get everything in the right window and figure out how to correlate everything on track. So I think the fact that they finished second here, you know, with all of that needing to be learned at such a difficult track, probably means that, you know, in Japan, Qatar, a few of those races, we could see Norris get his first win this season if Red Bull have another bad race. You know?
Yeah, it could happen.
Hopefully that technical directive nerfed Red Bull. You know?
Would have been fun. I mean, if it does, great. I would be more than happy.
They'll still
More
win.
competitive races for me. Yeah, that's done. I mean, look, after the first 5 races, I knew who was going to win the championship. It was a done and dusted thing. By the way, one thing about McLaren, another impressive weekend from Piastri as well. In terms of, do you think there is a possibility that Piastri and Norris fall out in the coming years?
If they get championship level cars, maybe, because I think Piastri's already driving at a really high level. I think you know how I feel about Norris. I think Norris is up there with like Verstappen and Leclerc. I think he's that
True.
level. But I think if Norris and Piastri have a championship winning car and they're taking on Verstappen or whoever it is, and the two of them start taking points off each other, yeah, that could easily turn into it. Because I think Norris will want to stamp like, this is my team. You know,
Who do you think has the higher ceiling?
That's really hard to say because Piastri, we don't know how. Like, is Piastri driving almost as good as he could? I won't be able to answer that for a season or two. But I still think Norris is the better driver overall at the moment. But that could change.
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But because even he has years under his belt,
5 years now. 3 years.
he debuted in 2019.
Okay.
So 19, 20, 21, 20. Yeah, 20. This is the 5th season.
Yeah.
In terms of debut, who do you think has the better one, Oscar or Lando?
Piastri.
Piastri, right?
Yeah.
But again, there is this factor which people do discount. Norris came into F1 as a teenager.
Yeah.
Piastri is 21, 22, something like this. So, I mean, I think Piastri is the real deal. I think he is.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but even look, Norris surprises me every time. Every time I feel that Piastri is closing up, he just pulls
I
away.
think we have, if you like, forget about even the older drivers like Hamilton and Alonso, even forgetting about some of those older drivers, even Ricardo, whatever. Like today's race, we had some of the most competitive. Like we have one of the most competitive fields where there is more drivers than any time I can remember on the grid
Elites.
that could step up and win a championship. Like,
Yeah.
Sainz, I think Sainz could in the right situation, but if Leclerc was given the right car, I think Leclerc would win out over a season. I think Leclerc is still slightly faster.
I'll ask you this question. This is actually not about McLaren but Ferrari. If you have to win a championship against Max Verstappen, who are you picking at Ferrari? And that's the whole thing. And that's where Ferrari is going wrong.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Because this is basically Hamilton's 2011 season all over again, where Button completely annihilated him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting though, because if Sainz was to drive like he has been, I don't want to discount Sainz though. It's just Leclerc is the obvious choice because he's been in that situation and he did win races before the car kind of fell off, you know. So I think
And look, Leclerc, whatever I've seen of him, I think in terms of raw talent, there's no driver that has stood out as much as he did in Formula 2. He, yeah,
I was just gonna say though, like, but this is the crazy thing. That's Ferrari, but if everyone was in, like, think about this. If this was a spec series, right, and everyone was in the same chassis, think about the fight we'd be having if you even just forget about Hamilton and Alonso being there, right? Because Hamilton and Alonso would be in the fight. But you've got Leclerc, you've got Norris, Lawson today. I think Lawson, given a few more races, would be stepping up pretty. I think maybe a year or two he'd need to get on top of, say, Norris and stuff, but there's potential there. Lawson definitely has that potential. Then you've got...
by the way, Josh Revel,
Josh. Sorry.
yeah, the YouTuber.
Yeah.
So I had him on the pod once. He's a Kiwi, so he's a huge fan of Liam Lawson.
Yeah.
Even I told him straight up, I don't think I'm too sold on Liam Lawson yet.
Did you watch any of his Super Formula races?
I followed him from the entire Formula 2, his entire Formula 2 stint.
Go and watch a couple of the Super Formula Japanese races, right? That is the second fastest, kind of constructors competition or whatever.
Behind Formula 1, yeah.
And it's apparently incredibly difficult to, like, jump in and adapt to. And he started winning, like, I think he won, or
he won the first race.
Yeah, he's second in the championship, like, and still within the title fight to win in his rookie season. I don't know. I think
no. In terms of, I'm not saying he's a poor driver or anything like that. My main look, I'll simply put down the facts. Last season in Formula 2, he was teamed up with Logan Sargent.
Yeah.
And Logan Sargent was clearly the more impressive driver. Clearly. In terms of the qualifying pace, he completely annihilated Lawson quite clearly.
Was that
in the race there was a bit.
Was that Sargent's
first season? Season.
Okay.
And it was Liam's, I think, second or third.
Okay.
So
see, I didn't follow that, so that's
yeah. I mean, Liam was a bit unlucky. He could have been maybe closer to. He finished P3. I think Logan was P4. Okay. Because he had some crash or something in the end. But in terms of raw pace and performance, Logan had the edge on him.
I don't know.
I mean, that was my takeaway. And even Yuri Vips.
Yeah, I just think Lawson. There's something there.
You think so?
I think at the end of the day, if he's racing again in Japan, right? If Lawson,
I think so.
Ricardo's
Yes.
back at Qatar. So so he's racing in Japan. If Lawson has another, I guess we need to see it, Lawson. We need to see more time. But
that's my view as well.
To making Yuki look like he doesn't deserve a seat, because Yuki this season has been on top form. But if another driver comes in and at Singapore
I think Danny beat him as well, in Hungary.
He looked great
straight out of the blocks.
But it's starting to make the kind of decision where they're talking about making Yuki the reserve for Red Bull.
I don't understand that.
I think Yuki deserves another season, but I can kind of understand the argument now where you're like, is Yuki that good, or is the car actually capable of those drives, and it's just De Vries.
Or De Vries pretty much flattered him easily.
I guess we'll
that
see
could be the
how
case.
Ricardo does and how Lawson does next weekend as well.
Yeah. You know what I think, what I feel is going to happen. I think the Honda relationship, it's slowly coming to an end. So and Yuki was one of the products of that relationship. Why he stood with AlphaTauri for this long after two pretty average seasons was pretty much because they were associated with Honda.
Yeah.
Next season
$1 million or something to have a driver in there.
Japanese driver, right? So next season I feel we might have Danny Ricciardo and Lawson in AlphaTauri, and ultimately after the first half of the season or first few races, they will see which driver is doing better out of Lawson and Ricciardo, and on the other hand they will take a look at Sergio, if he's doing a good job. I mean, you think he might be out of the car at the end of the season,
Yeah.
but I feel they will give at least decent time to ultimately evaluate both of them.
The
And if yeah, go ahead.
the simple problem I have with Checo keeping his seat, right, is they've had him for 3 years now. They know where they stand. They will have
Yeah.
already made their mind up on 2025, or with Checo. Maybe not with who sits in there, but they
Yeah.
definitely would have already gone. Okay, is Checo staying for 25 or not? And if there's any question in their minds to whether Checo's staying in 2025, surely they go, well, we've got Ricardo, Lawson, and Yuki. Why don't we just pay Checo his 15 million? Say, look, there's your contract paid. Bye bye.
Yeah.
The other drivers. Like, what have they got to lose?
Apparently, the plan was so this is sort of inside information from the paddock. So the plan was to evaluate Hulkenberg and Ricciardo, keep both of them as options. But what happened was, and apparently they were in talks with.
Or Gunther Steiner vetoed it or something.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure if he vetoed it or Hulkenberg pulled the plug early because he didn't want to be left hanging.
What I
That
heard was Gunther didn't want to let him go. But
yeah,
again,
that
just
also might be the case.
people I talked to in the paddock and stuff. But,
Yeah.
and I think someone else on Twitter posted it as well.
That's for Audi. Apparently, Hulkenberg was linked with Audi as well.
Okay, so maybe that's where I'm getting mistaken. Yeah.
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 So that was the deal with Hulkenberg, and for Ricciardo, they were pretty much looking at the second half of the season to see how he evaluates against Yuki. If he had done a decent enough job, he would have been promoted.
Yeah.
But this whole accident has kind of fucked things up for them. So they are a bit. They don't. The thing is, who is a sure shot fit in that Red Bull car, in the second Red Bull? There's no clear answer for now.
It's Ricardo, because
Yeah.
they don't. The thing is, they don't need someone to be super close to Max all the time, and I think with how Sergio has been driving this year, they could confidently say they will know from their data anyway, because they know how to tailor the setup to Ricardo. They have had Ricardo in cars long enough to have that data.
Yeah. Exactly.
So with Ricardo, it's a what you call it? What's the wording I'm trying to think of here? It's a calculated risk, because if Ricardo does poorly, they still have the upside of, well, he'll probably do just as well as Checo's been doing this season at the minimum. That's what
Yeah.
they're expecting if they think that. But he also brings the same amount of marketing appeal, whereas
Probably more.
maybe more. Yeah, maybe more. I like
I've realized the American market is actually
huge.
it's not only huge, it's also lucrative as well in terms of the CPM and everything. The advertising revenue
Yeah.
from America is
Massive.
it's almost twice or thrice from what we see from Europe.
And from Latin America, which is where Checo.
Oh, agreed. Yeah.
So like, from a marketability standpoint, it makes sense. Also, they could say, look, we decided on this. There's no downside to it, because Ricardo is kind of already spoiled goods. So if they take a chance on him and it doesn't work, then they
Yeah.
have the excuse that it's Zach Brown's fault. McLaren ruined him. They can. say-
Yeah.
Whereas if they try and bring up again another young driver, be it Yuki or be it Lawson, and it goes
Yeah.
wrong, it basically goes, what is wrong with the Red Bull driver program? Like, it puts
Yeah.
more spotlight on that.
Yeah.
Whereas there is no downside to going Checo out, Ricardo in. There's
True.
only upside. So
Yeah. Yeah, that way well, look, I'd love to see Ricciardo in that car because first of all he brings views, a lot of them.
he's a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's a positive energy. I mean, him at McLaren was such a dull period. I mean, other than that particular period from him, I've seen Vettel at Ferrari in 2020. That is probably one of the more depressing views that I've
Yeah.
seen from a driver. I mean, you can just look at him and you can see he does not want to be there.
Yeah.
So obvious.
Ricardo
Anyhow,
has talent, he's just not adaptable. And I think McLaren don't know how to tailor their car to a driver. They have to have adaptable drivers.
Yeah.
We've seen that with all of them.
Fortunately, both of them right now. I think Sainz also did a great job on that front.
And Sainz, Piastri, and Lando have all said it's a really difficult car to drive. And
Yeah.
you can't adapt it. So
It is what it is.
yeah.
And talking about Aston Martin, I don't know. What happened?
Well, about 20 odd years ago, Lance Stroll was born, and then that's the short story. No, I think the problem is that at Canada they brought a big upgrade that didn't work. It worked
Yeah.
for Canada, but it didn't. Whatever happened, it didn't work. The rumors are that is what started the whole flexi wing discussion. That's
Yeah.
the rumor going around. But I think the problem is, I think they took a lot of time to fix that, and I think that they have somewhat probably offset the issue. But I think that because they took so much time fixing that, everyone else has outdeveloped them because they had to fix an issue as opposed to.
Look, that is fine. I mean, I honestly don't mind that the fact that in their very first season competing at the front, they lost their way a bit.
Yeah.
Because again, they can get back, they can learn, they can get back to
As
it.
a
It's
team,
still an immature team.
It's never fought at the front ever.
Exactly.
It's Jordan, like when you go.
To be fair, 2020 it was third, so
Yeah, but
it has some
that
experience.
wasn't developing a car. That was putting a car in a photocopier.
Exactly. How easy.
Yeah.
And it won a race.
I think the thing is they're probably not too concerned. Because they have everything they need now to make. I don't know if it'll be 2024, but 25 and 26 are very promising for that team. They have Dan Fallows, who is second only to Nui in reality when it comes to aerodynamics. I think they're probably held back by a couple of bits. The engine.
I mean,
and
that's a very disrespectful statement to James Allison. I mean,
and I will disrespect James Allison all day.
why? I mean,
Mercedes
come on.
have never been that good at aerodynamics.
Come on.
Okay.
James Allison,
Okay.
2005,
They have-
2006,
Yes,
the
yes.
Lotuses.
Yes,
Come on.
okay, yeah, no, fair enough. But I'm saying Mercedes as a team, they
Yeah.
are okay. By saying this is the thing, I need to clarify here. I'm not saying they're shit at aerodynamics. What I'm saying
Yeah.
is they are second or third best at aerodynamics for a long time. The engine has always been the thing to prop them up, and we saw that in 2021. As soon as the engine kind of somewhat came together for Red Bull, look how
Yeah.
close they were. Red Bull
Mhm.
were always kind of second or third fastest because of the aero. That was not to do with the engine.
Yeah. Agreed.
So Red Bull have always been the aero guys because of New.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the thing is, Honda now are getting all of this, data together to start building a 2026 engine, or they will have started building a 2026 engine.
Hmm.
If that engine is up there with, even if Mercedes have the best and they're up there, they're right alongside. And
Yeah.
then you have Dan Fallows to build a chassis.
Yeah.
Newey could build the best car in the world. If Red Bull fuck up their engine program, that's
Yeah.
it. That's it. Gone.
But I think my main worry is the drivers.
Oh yeah, they need someone else. That is like
No, my worry is basically both of them. Because the thing is, again, it's the whole point of Aston Martin's existence is they want to make Lance Stroll the champion.
which
That is the reason why this team exists.
yeah.
So, what happens when Lawrence Stroll realizes that his son sucks as a Formula 1 driver? Because it's not only a business venture for him, because let's be fair, he has poured a lot of money into it. He has brought Saudis money like crazy.
To be
There's a
honest,
huge
from-
amount of
from a-
investment there.
From a business side, it's already a success regardless, because as soon as this year they started winning podiums, Aston Martin, the car company's stock went through the roof, and they were
Mhm.
able to basically, at a really good price, offload a ton of stock to Geely. Geely, is it the Chinese company? And
Yeah.
From a
And,
business standpoint, he's already upped the reputation of Aston, and a lot of
Mhm.
Ferrari buyers have started buying Astons. There's a load
Yeah.
behind it. So from a business point of view, it doesn't really matter. I think the
Hmm.
thing is Lawrence will win from a business point of view. The question is, what is more important to him going forward? Aston Martin winning a championship or Lance winning
Or
a
his son.
championship?
Yeah.
And
Because
Because
for
I-
Lance to win a championship, you need a season like 2014, and Lance to have a teammate like I don't know,
I just
Nikita Mazepin maybe. So you need that kind of disparity, and him in a car in which he can make mistakes, but the car is almost a second quicker than everyone
I think
else.
the thing is they need to make that decision for 2026, because I can't see them winning a constructors before then anyway. I think there is a chance that if they make a car perfectly, they could maybe challenge for a driver's. If they have a car that is a little bit quicker than the Red Bull, then I think that Alonso could still give Verstappen, I think, a run. I'm not saying he could beat him, but I think they
Hmm.
could give him a run. And if they make
Yeah.
a car that they kind of unlock something that the car is faster than the Red Bull, then
Yeah.
obviously that could make the difference. But they need to make that decision for 2026 if they're going to be serious about it, because everything else.
Do you really think they? Do you really think they should wait for this long? I mean, we are in 2023 right now. There's 24, 25, and in those 2 seasons, here are the few things that are going to happen. First of all, in the very first season, in 15 races, it has been established that Lance is a massive liability for that team.
Yeah.
Like, it's not even debatable anymore.
Okay, so to answer your question quickly, they shouldn't wait that long, but they will, because, like, at the end of the day,
'Cause the thing is-
Lawrence Stroll has enough money to run the team by himself, so he could and
That is true.
Unlike Aston Martin, the car company,
Hmm.
Lawrence Stroll has full control of the team. He kept that
Yeah.
full control of the team. So even
Yeah.
if the entire team and the rest of the board said, Lawrence, it's time to remove your son, he can just say,
Yeah.
fuck off.
Exactly.
Simple as. So I think until a point where Lance says, Dad, I'm not going to win a championship. I'm going to go play tennis. I think this is what
I
it
hope
is.
he does. I really hope he does.
But if they can give a car fast enough, then I think that's.
But that's not possible, no.
the
That's
thing
only
is-
possible
no,
when the
no,
regulations
not-
change.
Not for Lance to win, but if they can give a car that is fast enough to win a championship, then at the very least, I think for Lawrence, the key there will be to go, okay, we keep Alonso or someone else good in the car, and then it's kind of win-win because it's no longer Lawrence's problem. He's like,
Yeah.
here, son, here's a car to win. And if he can't win, then he's like, well, son, I am quite angry that you couldn't win a champ. And he'll do one of his speeches.
Typical accent. Yeah. Oh God. He is a very imposing personality, isn't he? When he speaks,
Yeah.
man, the man is crazy. But yeah, of course, he's a billionaire as well. Yeah, Strolovich. Because you know what I worried about was Aston started this season as a second fastest car. It was P2 in the championship. It is currently P4,
Yeah.
and by the if you look at the trajectory right now, McLaren might end up challenging them.
Yeah, I think they should focus on 2024 anyway.
I think they already are.
Yeah,
I think they already are doing that.
I don't think
There's
any
no point to do that anything right now.
especially with McLaren and stuff. Just, I think the issue is, like I said, they had a big issue after Canada, and I think they spent so much time fixing that it's kind of now it's just about making sure that whatever they're bringing next year
Yeah.
won't have the same issue. And
Yeah.
I think next year we could see them come. I would not be surprised if this time next year they're properly fighting for second, if not closer to the Red Bulls, because I think they have everything there to do it. My
Yeah.
problem is I don't know if they can beat the Red Bulls until 2026. I think they need a clear advantage in the engine or something to push them over that line.
Yeah.
But my bigger concern about them is today is the first time that Alonso has kind of said something negative towards the team.
Threw his toys out of the pram, and he was
this-
completely unhinged.
And this is the thing where I hope it's just a bad day and Alonso calms down, because you might be aware that Alonso has a slight history of burning his bridges with teams.
Everywhere.
And this is a team that he could probably, with the way he's driving now, he could probably hold on to a contract until 2026.
Yeah.
What a story it would be if 20 years after his last championship, he fought for a championship again.
Wow. And he won.
That would be incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just hope that he goes, okay, let's calm down for a sec. When I joined the team, they told me that we're aiming to win a podium or two in 2023, and to kind of say, okay, the team is working. Now let's focus on 24, 25, and build up to 26. That was the expectation at the start of this season. I
Yeah.
hope that he hasn't seen some success and gone, what's happening? Fuck this, I'm out of, like.
I think no. I think what happened was, I think it came down to one very simple thing that happened to him, which pissed him off a lot more than anything else that could have done that weekend.
Alpine.
Ocon overtook
Yes,
him, and he
that's-
overtook him in such a beautiful manner
Yeah.
that was entirely opportunistic, and that's what pissed him off.
I don't think, like most of Ocon's prior teammates, I don't think he likes Ocon.
Yeah.
Perez
I
didn't
don't think
like
he
Ocon.
likes.
I don't think anyone likes Ocon that drove with him before.
Yeah, I don't think
Ocon's
they
a
do.
bad driver. Uh, you're an
I
Ocon
actually
fan,
thought.
right?
Oh yeah. Look, actually, his story is something that is very inspirational because
Yeah.
so that's why I cheer for the underdog.
Okay, Ocon and Gasly, and I will clarify this with you. I do not think either of them are bad drivers. First of
But
all,
they are not elite. You
yes,
won't put
they
them.
are. For me, they are like Perez. They could be the kings of the midfield, but I don't
Yeah.
think they're championship worthy. I think they are the type of drivers that in midfield cars will bring out some incredible performances, like Monaco with Ocon, where he got it on the podium when he
Mhm.
probably shouldn't have. Like those
Yeah.
performances, Gasly in 2021 with that win.
He did it in Zandvoort as well, no? Gasly got a
Yeah.
podium.
So
Very
there's
impressive.
those are the types of drivers that like checkers,
Yeah.
where you're like, okay, you're in a midfield car and you're able to kind of pull out some really great performances.
Yeah.
But
True.
would I put you in a Red Bull and say win a championship? No. Like,
No,
just
no.
wouldn't.
What you'll do is ideally both Gasly and Ocon fall in the foil of Carlos Sainz to an
They'll be
extent.
the safe pair of hands that teams would
Exactly,
bring
exactly.
in. Yeah.
And that's why I always find it hard to measure up how good Carlos is, cause while he had a great stint at McLaren, Lando was undercooked at that point in time. His stint at Ferrari has been impressive, but Leclerc has been all over the place. Before that, he was with Toro Rosso. Max annihilated him a bit in the first season.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 50 and 10 points. That was the kind of the point gap was there. He pretty much beat up Daniel Kvyat without any issue.
Yeah.
Hulkenberg beat him up. Hulkenberg pretty much, they had one season together only in Renault.
Yeah.
So I always find it hard to understand where I place Sainz.
Yeah.
Similarly with Ocon and Gasly as well. I mean, I don't think they are. I won't put them in the league of Leclerc,
Yeah.
Max, Norris, and Russell. I'll put them just a step below that. That's where they kind of lie.
Yeah, it's just the thing is Ocon as well. It's like Ocon did have potential at one point, but there's a reason why Mercedes, who could have called him up alongside Hamilton, didn't.
No. The thing is, it's a very clear thing. The only reason why Mercedes did not promote either Ocon or even Russell for that long was
Because
they did not
Hamilton
want
was-
to stir the
they
boat,
didn't want to
rock the boat.
But my point is,
Yeah.
they could have coming into this new generation at any. Like I know Ocon was already kind of gone, but
Yeah,
it would have
to
been
Renault,
very
yeah.
easy for Toto to be like, "I'll ring you back in."
Yeah, I think
Well,
yes,
I
but
think-
Russell is better, right?
Russell has.
I'll say Russell is,
The
yeah.
other thing is, I usually kind of every season I have a team that I kind of bash on, and Alpine is my team this year to bash on.
I think I'll do the same thing.
There's always one team.
Question
that
to
kind of-
Wheel Sports. By the way, question to Wheel Sports. Question to we. Wow, there are 3 to 4 questions, and I'm not wearing my spectacles.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay, rank from
This is
best to
live on
worst.
YouTube, I'm guessing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think are the faults and cons of Vettel and Raikkonen's career? With Raikkonen, at least he won a title with Ferrari. So the man is a Vettel Hamilton fan, by the
Honestly,
way.
the faults that Vettel made with his career was moving to Ferrari. I think was the key the key problem there. At the end of the day, look, I think Vettel gave it a really good try in 2017 and 2018. And
Yeah.
look, there was always this talk, especially, and this always happens whenever one person is dominating or one team's dominating. Well, Vettel can only drive from the front. He can't do wheel-to-wheel racing, and I think that is absolute
Bullshit.
complete and utter bullshit. Vettel was a top-quality driver. I think just the
In
problem-
2008.
Yeah, and
Since
in
2008.
2017 and 2018, I think, look, Vettel gave a really strong challenge, and I think the problem was Ferrari. Like, Ferrari since 2014 have had a revolving door of bosses, and I think they've just kind of.
Yeah.
He was no one can win at Ferrari. Ferrari is where dreams go to die at the moment, and
Yeah.
until I think Fred.
We're
Vasseur
looking
is-
at one right now.
Yeah,
We are
I
looking
think
at
Fred
one.
Vasseur is the right person to bring in to start fixing it. But the worry I have is that they probably will start throwing Fred Vasseur out in a year or two if he doesn't get results. When
There are rumors, by the way.
what they need to do is keep him, for as long as possible to give some
Yeah.
stability to the team, because Fred Vasseur can start learning where to fix things, and that's what Mattia
Exactly.
was trying to do, but they got impatient and threw him out.
Look, the issue with Mattia was, he- I think he was incompetent from day one.
I just-
That's the
I just
yeah.
had
Tell me.
the other question as well, by the way. I'll just throw it in, so because it's along
Sure,
the
sure.
same lines, because we can keep
Sure.
talking about that. He says that question about, since Vettel and Raikkonen have more better peaks than Lewis, Alonso, and Verstappen, what are the cons of both them to be worse than Hamilton, Alonso, and Verstappen career-wise? So basically,
You go first.
but the thing is, Alonso, we kind of already touched on this. Alonso burned too many bridges.
No. The question is, Vettel and Kimi had better peaks,
Yeah.
but career-wise, Max, Lewis, and Alonso had a better career, in his view.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, the thing is,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if. First of all, I kind of disagree with one of those things. I don't know if Vettel and Raikkonen had better peaks than Lewis. I would say that's arguable. You could say that's probably true to points, because there is points where those two drivers have had just incredible peaks that Lewis hasn't have. The same way that, like, Verstappen this season is having an incredible run of dominance. Hamilton has never really he's had dominant seasons, but he's never had that, like, crazy run of dominance where he's just winning everything. Like,
Yeah.
Bottas has always stolen a win or a pole, or, you know.
Hamilton took weekends off. He always did.
I would argue that Alonso and Verstappen have had similar peaks already. Like, Verstappen already, and Alonso has had similar peaks to Vettel and Raikkonen. I mean, I think that's you could definitely say Alonso has had crazy peaks, like
2013 and 2010. 2012 and 2010.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I don't know if I'd agree with that. The thing is, if you're the second part of the question, why they've had worse
Careers.
careers than Hamilton, Alonso, and Verstappen. Has
I'd-
Vettel had a worse career than Alonso?
That's what I was going to argue. I don't think Vettel had a worse career than Alonso. I think it's all about perception.
Raikkonen-
And
Raikkonen,
Kimi did.
I would say yes, but
the thing
because
is-
Raikkonen only cared. Raikkonen didn't give a shit about anything. He won his title, and then basically Lotus said, "Here's a shit ton of money," and he went, "Yeah, okay, let's do it."
yeah, exactly.
It's fine.
I think Kimi was hungry until 2007,
Yeah,
when he really gave a shit. And I started my first race live was 2005 F1 Monaco Grand Prix.
Mhm.
And till date, that first qualifying lap from Kimi, it gives me goosebumps.
yeah,
It was so honest. The car was going this way, that way, and it was preceded by Alonso's fastest lap on the same, pretty much on the, I think, a minute ago.
yeah.
So it was such an introduction, and from that point onward, when it came to raw pace, when it came to talent and things like that, Kimi always stood out until 2007.
Yeah.
After that, you could see he took it as he even said, he took it as a hobby.
You look at Raikkonen's, like, just his whole personality. He gave a shit big time about winning the world championship, and once
Yeah.
he won it, it was like, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna
Done.
like Kimi, why didn't you win that pole position? I was having a
Yeah.
shit. You know, it's just like, he was brilliant. But he
Exactly.
I think he just checked out, and he was just driving for the fun of it. You know,
Exactly.
it was like if you and me went for, I don't know, a game of golf or some other sport. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's a hobby. It's something I do on
Yeah.
a Sunday.
And you get paid millions for it. And
Yeah.
I think this was the question I was asked by one of the writers, that Lewis should retire now. He's close to 40. He's done everything. I told him, okay, tell me something. If there is something you like doing and someone is paying you $1 million a week to do that,
Yeah.
why would you give that up?
I think that actually, and this is probably a controversial one, I've said it a few times before, I think Verstappen did Hamilton fans a huge favour. Because I think that if Verstappen and Red Bull hadn't have won that 2021 Drivers' Championship,
Lewis would have retired.
Lewis would have taken his 8th and he would have retired.
Yeah.
He probably would have stuck around for 2022 to see what the new cars are like. And I think the moment that car was difficult and he wasn't enjoying himself, because there
Yeah.
was a small window in the start of 2022 he probably would have said, "Yeah, guys, I'm out. Like, forget about it."
Yeah.
And instead of that, what happened was he had that massive hunger now, where he's like, "I'm getting my eighth," and he's sticking around. I don't think he'll get that eighth. Personally,
Yeah, me
I
neither.
don't think so. It's never happened before where, a Schumacher, a Prost, any of these guys has won and come back after dropping off. If that makes sense, after it ends.
Sai Krishna says Charan Hamilton had weekends off Kohli. So by the way, that's by the way, Vettel Hamilton says fuck yeah. You should read. My eyes are hurting now.
Okay, question to
You-
only to Wheel Sports: ranked best to worst, the Alpha Sauber drivers at their time in between Leclerc, Ericsson, Bottas show. One sec, I need to kind of understand this. Okay. Alpha Sauber drivers at their time. Okay, between Leclerc.
He's asked me
like
this
to
question
rank
before.
them,
Yeah.
So it's Leclerc, Ericsson, Bottas, Show, Giovinazzi, and Raikkonen. Well, Giovinazzi is clearly last because he's fucking useless.
And he got more opportunities than Mick Schumacher.
I'll just say that right now. See, Raikkonen and Leclerc is really hard because so I'm trying to. The two best on that list are
During
Leclerc
during
and
during
Raikkonen.
during the
That's-
during the that
that's-
particular stint he's asking.
That's the problem. So if it's during that particular stint, I would say it's Leclerc then Raikkonen.
Yeah.
Overall, if you were talking about full career so far, Raikkonen obviously.
Raikkonen hands
But,
down.
yeah, so I would say it goes Leclerc, Raikkonen. I can't even remember. How did Ericsson do? I can't even remember.
He was
Shit.
decent, but not that good. Decent.
Okay, so then
There's
Leclerc-
Bottas as well, by the way.
Yeah, so I was going to say Leclerc, Raikkonen, probably Bottas next because Bottas, that was at a time when he was doing all right.
No,
Was Bottas
Bottas
in-
has no. He's just joined the team. No, in 2022.
Oh, sorry, getting my head mixed up. I was thinking of Williams for a minute. Sorry.
Yeah.
Bottas, but I would still say Bottas, yeah, because Bottas in 2022 had a killer of a time. So either
Yeah,
way,
it was good.
Leclerc, Raikkonen, Bottas, Joe, because I think Joe is Joe hasn't been.
I've not been a huge
standard.
fan.
I
Yeah.
think he's done all right considering what the car is, and I think the
Yeah.
problem is that I'm gonna put Ericsson first, and I'll tell you why. Just because I can't remember watching Ericsson at all. I've completely drawn a blank at Ericsson. So Ericsson was probably better than Giovinazzi, who I think was an absolutely terrible, awful,
Yeah.
terrible shit driver. And I think Giovinazzi
Yeah.
should never be allowed back in a Formula 1 seat again.
True.
He was useless. He can go off and pedal cars or do WEC or something. But that's so yeah.
He's
so-
a Le Mans winner, by the way.
yeah, and he's shit. That's Le Mans easy. I could win Le Mans. Leclerc,
Yeah.
Raikkonen, Bottas, Joe, Ericsson, Giovinazzi.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah,
should
similar.
probably put Ericsson behind Giovinazzi, but I'm not going to.
No.
I've made up
I
my
think
mind.
Ericsson had a decent stint. He was teamed with Pascal Wehrlein and Philippe Nasser, so he did decently.
Sai just said Jason, I'll disrespect James Allison Day has it. I just don't think. I'm sorry, James Allison. Look, clearly he did something right, but
Yeah.
like, it's just Mercedes won because of the engine, not because of the aero.
I don't think that's the case. I mean,
Come on.
I mean, no. I'm saying okay. The engine was great. But I've seen Mercedes do well in races like even Monaco. They used to dominate.
Yeah.
14, 15.
Look, I'm probably being
Singapore.
harsh. I think
Yeah.
they were never.
But James joined in 2016. By the way, he was
Yeah.
first with Ferrari, I think.
But they weren't, and then from 2016 onwards, their aero
Yeah.
was shit. So it's James's fault. So you've just proved my point. It's James's fault.
See,
I know,
also-
they were
yeah.
always second best in aero. The
I don't
engine Just
know.
made up for the difference. Maybe 2020 not. Maybe 2020 not.
Yeah, 2020 was a different season completely.
Yeah.
The thing is, at the end of the day, it's the entire team.
Yeah.
It's very hard to be nitpicking. Even right now, look, the Honda power unit it's no joke.
Yeah.
It's maybe the best overall in terms of drivability and efficiency. And we really, I mean, even Red Bull needs that. I mean, I did this feature on Adrian Newey as well. That does Adrian Newey equal success and dominance in Formula One?
Statistically, yes. But anyway, no. But
Yeah.
you need the engine as well. Obviously, it's not.
Exactly, cause
It's complicated.
exactly,
But
and you need the drivers and the strategy team as well. You
but
need everything.
in an aero or in terms of if you want a team to give you the best aero, statistically speaking, putting Nui in charge is
Yeah.
the best way to get that done.
Yeah, no,
Because
true.
He's apart from Leighton House, he's won a championship at every single team he's been at, right?
True.
I
Yeah,
think.
but
apart
he
from Leighton
also.
House. But Leighton House were obviously a shit team, so that was kind of.
Yeah, it was a back marker only, and I think it folded the very next year. So something
So
like
was it
that.
Williams, McLaren.
Williams,
Red Bull?
McLaren, Red Bull. That's it.
Has it only been 3 teams?
That's why. I mean, it seems that he's been around for too long,
Yeah, it does.
and
I keep thinking it's more teams, but it's not. No.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think he had like around 25 to 30% success rate overall in terms of the years that he's been a part of. And the thing is, what came out, I did the whole analysis. I also looked at
So
Allison,
what you're saying is
Braun.
Allison did like a 90% success rate, so he's better.
No, Allison also had a 40% success rate apparently.
Oh, right. If you go across
With
his whole-
Ferrari. He was with Ferrari, he was with Renault, and then he came back to Mercedes. So he's been part of
At the-
three
at the
dominant.
time he was at Ferrari, that was during the Braun era, right? When Braun
Yeah, he was deputy to Braun. Yeah. And he was responsible for the Renault in 2005 2006. The what was it? The mass dampers or something?
Mm-hmm.
The car completely revolutionized.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, by the way, I think when it came to the whole reaction thing, instant reaction, we've gone on for 2 hours. By the way,
yeah, I was just.
I did not expect
I
that.
just noticed the time. We probably should wrap this up because I think I have to go in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes. I didn't even realize we were on for like 2 hours. So,
Man, yeah, it's been long.
Yeah.
By the way, yeah, it's been fun. I mean, it's been fun to catch up after a long time.
Yeah, we should
How
try
long
to
has
do
it
this-
been? Yeah.
Do this a couple more times over the season.
Come on. Yeah,
What
we'll do
is
that.
Maybe
We'll shorten
Japan-
this up in future.
Japan's a weird time for me in terms of hours, so probably not Japan. Because
Yeah,
like
Japan-
4 o'clock in the morning for me by the time it's all over.
Is it?
It starts at midnight, but by the time it's over, it'll be like
It's
3
crazy.
a.m. or something that we start the podcast. I
Yeah.
don't really want to be talking till 5 o'clock in the morning, so let's not do that. Let's pick a race, maybe even like one of the later ones, like Qatar, Abu Dhabi, something like that. We'll
Cool.
and we can
Something
do it-
around this time.
We'll do it
I mean,
on the
and
channel and
sure.
swap between the two. Cool.
Works.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Man, nice talking to you, man.
Yeah, so we'll finish
Okay.
there. I suppose final thoughts though. What's your last word?
Yeah, so I think one thing I'm really looking forward to is what's going to happen in the very next race.
Mhm.
That's something I'm slightly pissed off that Max will seal the title with almost how many? 7 races left?
It'll be
I'm
6 after
slight-
Japan, won't it? Or no, 7?
Yeah, it will be 6 after Japan.
6 after Japan.
I think he breaks Schumacher's. I think by the way, one thing I'm very happy about Michael Schumacher's record, the 2002 season where he secured podium in every race of the season. It stays.
Oh, yeah.
So at least one Schumacher record he's not going to break.
Yeah.
I'm happy.
Yeah.
So I'm super happy. And yeah, I think it was fun race. I mean, I was slightly exhausted by the time it ended because of trying to keep up with everything. It becomes a bit of a headache. You have to keep an eye on the timing sheets and then follow that and have a banter on Twitter.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a headache. But yeah, it's been fun, man.
Yeah.
It's been
My
fun having
final
you.
thought is I'm glad that finally the FIA caught Red Bull cheating and they're not doing so well now.
Yeah, and finally we'll have competitive season in which Carlos Sainz will be the champion.
And it definitely won't be the case that everyone talking about the TD has no idea what they're talking about, and that Japan Red Bull will just come back and be as fast as normal again. That definitely
yeah.
will not be the case. Red Bull were 100% cheating, definitely.
Yeah. So with that parting thought, thanks to everyone. So with that bombshell, thanks to everyone who tuned in. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Whew. So the